The soil beneath our feet holds a timeless story, whispered through centuries, etched into the grooves of rocks, and carried by the breath of the wind. It's not just dirt, it's life itself. Ancient hands once touched this same soil, fingers caked in the earthy essence of survival, offering prayers not to abstract skies, but to the earth that cradled them. They saw gods in the fertile plains, in the rolling hills, and in the endless stretches of wilderness. To them, the earth wasn't just a place, it was a being. Alive. Breathing. A mother, fierce and nurturing, who demanded reverence and rewarded devotion with life itself. The earth gods were born in the desperate hope of survival. Crops would sprout only if the land was blessed, rains fell only if the gods willed it, and seasons turned only under divine guidance. Imagine standing at the edge of a parched field, your family's future tethered to a hope that the earth would answer. That is where it began. The act of survival, growing food, ensuring water, securing shelter, was a fragile pact with forces far greater than humankind. And in those forces, people saw gods. In the stillness of ancient nights, under skies full of stars, stories began to take shape. A farmer might tell his child of a goddess who sowed the first seeds into the soil, her hands imbued with sacred fertility. Or of a god whose anger could make rivers overflow, drowning fields in wrath. These stories weren't just tales, they were anchors in a chaotic, unpredictable world. If the earth could feel joy, anger, or grief, then humanity could plead, persuade, or placate it. These were the roots of faith, growing like vines through every culture, binding people to their land. The earth gods weren't abstract ideals, they were visceral, present, and profoundly intertwined with the reality of existence. When the sun scorched too fiercely or the rains refused to fall, offerings were made. Sacrifices, some beautiful and some harrowing, spoke of a belief so intense it could bend life itself. These acts weren't born of ignorance but of necessity. Every grain harvested was an act of trust, every loaf of bread a testament to that covenant with the divine. In Sumeria, they whispered of Ninhursag, the exalted queen of the mountains, whose blessings brought life to the plains. To the Greeks, Gaia was no myth, but the very foundation of existence, a being from whom gods themselves were born. In distant lands, the names and forms changed, but the essence remained the same. The earth was sacred, a deity that both nurtured and demanded, a force to be revered and feared. Picture the rituals that once surrounded these gods. Circles formed around fires, prayers echoing under moonlit skies. Hands raised, not in defiance, but in gratitude and surrender. In these moments, humanity wasn't separate from the earth, they were one. The gods of the earth were not distant, they were intimate, tied to every seed planted, every harvest reaped. They didn't live on high thrones, they resided in the soil itself, in the bounty of the land, and in the aching beauty of survival. Yet, the earth gods were not gentle spirits alone. They were fierce, demanding respect and reminding humanity of its place. When rivers overflowed or volcanoes erupted, it was a divine rage, a call to humility. These moments were terrifying, yes, but they were also clarifying. In the face of nature's raw power, people found not just fear but meaning. The earth wasn't indifferent, it was alive, and its gods were watching. This connection between humanity and the divine earth wasn't a luxury, it was a necessity. The first harvest festival wasn't a celebration, it was a prayer turned into dance, gratitude shaped into song. And in those celebrations, something profound emerged, a shared understanding that life itself was a gift from forces beyond comprehension. Agriculture was the axis upon which everything turned. From the first seed pressed into the soil, humanity's fate was tied to the rhythms of the earth. Seasons were no longer just changes in weather, they were sacred cycles. Spring became a rebirth, summer a time of abundance, autumn a reckoning, and winter a solemn pause. And through it all, the earth gods loomed, silent and present, like the steady heartbeat of the planet itself. Can you hear it? The echo of those ancient prayers still lingers in the quiet corners of our world. In the rustling of leaves, the hum of fertile soil, and the rhythmic crash of waves against the shore. The earth gods haven't disappeared, they've simply faded into the background, waiting, as they always have, in the land that cradles us. The story doesn't end here. It shifts and transforms, just as the earth itself does. Somewhere, in the distance, another name is spoken, another god remembered, a deity not bound to a single land, but tied to the very essence of life. The cycle continues. A seed falls into the ground, vanishes beneath the soil, and is forgotten. It lies in darkness, dormant, still. To the untrained eye, it looks like nothing more than the end, a speck swallowed by the earth. Yet, days pass, and something stirs. A fragile sprout breaks through the crust of dirt, reaching toward the light, its green defiance a testament to life's refusal to fade. This is not just the story of a seed, it is the story of earth gods across the ages, fertility, death, rebirth, and the cycles that govern all existence. Across every culture, the myths of earth gods are woven with the same threads, no matter the language spoken or the land walked. Fertility stands at the heart of their essence. To nurture life, to ensure the survival of a people, the earth gods became symbols of abundance. In fields of golden grain, and orchards heavy with fruit, their presence was undeniable. Yet fertility was never a single, quiet blessing. It was both sacred and sensual, a vivid force entwined with the act of creation itself. In ancient Greece, Demeter grieved for her daughter Persephone, her sorrow so deep that the earth itself became barren. Nothing grew until Persephone's return marked spring's renewal, a poignant reminder that fertility is as much about loss as it is about life. Across oceans, in the Andes, Pachamama cradled the mountains and valleys, her body giving rise to crops that fed her people. Her care wasn't passive, it was active, a giving of herself, a constant sacrifice. Yet with fertility comes death. The two are inseparable, a truth earth gods have always embodied. Crops wither after harvest, leaves fall in autumn, and the soil rests in winter. These are not tragedies, but inevitabilities, echoes of life's fragility. The earth gods are not kind in the way we might imagine, they are real, raw, and honest. They remind us that death is not an end, but part of a larger rhythm. Among the Norse, Nerthus was celebrated with parades and rituals, her effigy carried to bless the land. But her veneration often included sacrifices, lives given back to the earth to ensure her favor. In Mesoamerican cultures, the Aztec god Centeotl represented maize, the most vital crop. Festivals in his name celebrated the harvest, but they also acknowledged the cycle of life and death through solemn rites. The gods themselves understood this balance, for how can there be life without the shadow of its inevitable conclusion? Rebirth, then, becomes the promised earth gods whisper in the quiet of dawns and the whispers of spring winds. After death, there is always renewal, a truth as old as the soil itself. The Egyptian god Geb, his body the earth, lay still and fertile beneath the sky goddess Nut. His stillness wasn't dormancy but potential, waiting for the rains to awaken him. This rhythm of death and rebirth isn't just a pattern, it is a guarantee, a sacred pact between the earth and its inhabitants. These myths speak to something deeply human, the need to find meaning in nature's relentless cycles. As people watched the seasons change, they saw not chaos but order, not randomness but intention. The earth gods reflected this understanding. They were the storytellers, the keepers of a rhythm that echoed in every heartbeat, every sunrise, and every tide. Beyond the cycles, the earth gods also mirrored humanity's connection to nature. In their myths, the earth wasn't something separate from people, it was intertwined with their lives, their hopes, and their fears. The gods of the earth reminded humanity of their place, not as rulers but as participants in a grander design. To honor the earth was to honor oneself, to respect its cycles was to acknowledge the fragility and beauty of existence. In Celtic lore, Danu represented not only the land but the people who lived upon it. Her rivers flowed with life, her hills whispered of strength, and her valleys cradled the stories of her children. For the Maori, Papatuanuku, the Earth Mother, bore not just the physical world but also the spiritual essence of her people. To harm her was to harm oneself, a sacred truth that guided their care for the land. The threads of fertility, death, rebirth, and humanity's connection to nature form a tapestry as vast as the earth itself. Each culture's earth gods may have different names, faces, and rituals, but their core remains the same. They remind us that we are part of the cycles we see, part of the story the earth has been telling since the first breath of life stirred its soil. And just as the cycles of nature turn endlessly, so too does the story of the earth gods. Their myths, though ancient, are far from dormant. They live on, subtly woven into traditions, whispered in forgotten corners, and waiting to awaken, like seeds buried in fertile ground. The land of Sumer was harsh, a cradle of life carved from the unforgiving earth between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Beneath the blazing sun, the people labored, drawing life from the soil that seemed, at times, reluctant to give. Yet it was here, in this raw and demanding landscape, that the stories of the Earth Mothers Ki and Ninhursag took root. These goddesses weren't distant, celestial figures. They were tangible, their presence felt in every grain of barley, every flowing canal, and every birth that promised continuity in a fragile world. Ninhursag, the exalted lady of the mountain, held a place of reverence as a creator of life. Her essence wasn't confined to fertility in a narrow sense, but expanded into the very framework of existence. She shaped the physical world, molding clay into forms that breathed and thrived. Her touch was gentle yet purposeful, a divine hand crafting the foundation of civilization itself. She wasn't merely a goddess of the earth, she was the earth, fertile and nurturing, a force that sustained life and demanded respect. In the myths, Ninhursag's role as a creator shines brilliantly. She is said to have crafted humanity alongside the great god Enki, shaping beings from the rich clay of Sumer's rivers. Each figure she molded was more than a form, it was a life imbued with purpose and tied intrinsically to the earth from which it arose. To the Sumerians, this wasn't just a story, it was their truth. Every child born, every crop harvested, was seen as part of Ninhursag's ongoing act of creation. Ki, another Earth Mother in Sumerian lore, represents the raw, unyielding power of the land itself. Unlike Ninhursag's nurturing nature, Ki embodies the Earth's steadfast endurance. Her name is invoked in the textures of life, the roughness of unworked soil, the heat of the sun-baked ground, and the sharp edge of the farmer's plow cutting into the earth. Ki was less of a personal figure and more of a primal force, a presence felt with every footstep on Sumer's plains. Together, Ki and Ninhursag wove a duality that reflected the Sumerian relationship with their land. The earth was both mother and provider, yet also demanding and unpredictable. The Sumerians understood this deeply. Their survival depended on coaxing the soil into yielding its bounty, a delicate dance of labor, ritual, and devotion. To honor Ninhursag was to honor the lifeblood of their existence, the land that sustained them. The canals, painstakingly dug by hand, became sacred veins of the earth. Water, drawn from distant rivers, was life itself, and its flow through the fields was seen as a gift from the gods. Ninhursag was believed to dwell within these fertile places, her essence present in every sprouting seed. She wasn't an abstract deity to be worshipped from afar, she was a constant, personal force, alive in the hum of bees around blooming crops and the rhythm of the seasons turning. In Sumerian society, fertility wasn't just about birth, it was about survival. The ability of the earth to produce was intimately tied to their understanding of life and death. When the fields flourished, the people flourished. When the harvest failed, their faith in the gods was tested. Ninhursag was at the center of this delicate balance. Her favor was sought through offerings, prayers, and festivals that marked the rhythms of planting and reaping. It was said that neglecting her rites could bring sterility to the land and despair to its people. The myths also tell of Ninhursag's healing power. In one tale, when Enki falls ill after consuming forbidden plants, it is Ninhursag who heals him, drawing life back into his failing body. This story wasn't merely about divine squabbles, it was a reflection of the earth's ability to renew and restore. No matter how dire the circumstances, the Sumerians believed that Ninhursag's power could bring life from even the darkest despair. For the women of Sumer, Ninhursag held a special place. She was a symbol of their strength, their ability to bear life, and their connection to the cycles of nature. Her story wasn't just mythology, it was woven into their daily lives, into every birth, every planting, and every harvest. She stood as a reminder that creation wasn't an act confined to the gods, it was a shared endeavor, one that required both divine blessing and human effort. In the quiet moments, when the sun dipped below the horizon and the fields lay still, the Sumerians would look out at the land and feel the presence of their earth mothers. Ninhursag's nurturing hands, Ki's enduring strength, they were not distant echoes from a mythic past, but constant companions in the struggle and beauty of existence. And even as the world changed and new gods rose to prominence, their essence remained, embedded in the soil, waiting for those who would remember. Beneath the endless skies of ancient Sumer, where the parched land met rivers that glistened like liquid mirrors, life found its fragile balance. It was here, in this delicate interplay between the solid earth and the flowing water, that Enki, one of the most revered Sumerian gods, wove his essence into the heart of creation. Enki wasn't just a deity of water or wisdom, he was the bridge between elements, the union of earth and water that sustained life and gave it purpose. Enki's presence was tangible in the rivers that threaded through the dry plains, carving veins of fertility into the lifeless dust. The Sumerians understood that without these waters, the earth would remain barren, unyielding. But water alone was not enough. It was in their mingling, the moist soil cradling seeds, the irrigation canals nurturing crops, that life could thrive. Enki, as both the god of water and the bringer of wisdom, symbolized this connection. He wasn't distant or abstract, he was the life force that flowed through every furrow and stream, the whisper of wisdom in the farmer's toil. The myths tell of Enki's profound role as a creator and innovator. When the gods needed a steward for the land, it was Enki who crafted humanity from clay, infusing lifeless forms with purpose. The clay he used wasn't just earth, it was earth mixed with water, soft and pliable, a perfect metaphor for life itself. The Sumerians didn't see humanity's creation as a miracle but as a reflection of their own relationship with their world, the shaping of raw materials, the molding of something enduring from fragile beginnings. Enki's association with water went beyond physical sustenance. The Sumerians saw water as a vessel for knowledge and transformation, a medium through which change flowed. Enki's realm wasn't confined to the rivers and marshes, it extended to the mysterious underground aquifers, the unseen sources of life that bubbled up in springs and wells. He governed the life-giving freshwaters, or Apsu, which represented both the physical and the metaphysical. In his domain, water wasn't merely a resource, it was wisdom itself, flowing into the minds of those who sought understanding. This connection between water and wisdom is vividly depicted in the myth of Enki and Ninhursag. Enki, in his unbridled curiosity, consumed the sacred plants of the earth, disrupting the balance of creation. His act caused him great suffering, symbolizing the consequences of unchecked knowledge. Yet it was through this imbalance that healing and renewal emerged, with Ninhursag restoring Enki and, by extension, the harmony of the earth. This tale was more than a cautionary story, it was an acknowledgement of the delicate equilibrium required to sustain life and the profound interplay between knowledge and responsibility. For the Sumerians, Enki's wisdom wasn't an abstract, intellectual ideal, it was practical, grounded in the rhythms of survival. He was the god who gifted humanity the tools of civilization, agriculture, irrigation, writing, and law. These weren't merely conveniences, they were lifelines in a world where survival was a tenuous grip on a harsh reality. Through Enki, the Sumerians saw the divine hand in their ability to shape the earth, to turn barren land into fertile fields, and to transform chaos into order. Yet, Enki wasn't a god of rigid structure. His wisdom had a fluidity, much like the water he governed. He understood that life wasn't static, it ebbed and flowed, requiring adaptability and ingenuity. This is perhaps why he was also seen as a trickster figure in some tales, a deity who defied convention and embraced the unexpected. Enki's playful intelligence reminded the Sumerians that survival often required wit and creativity, qualities as essential as strength or devotion. His symbols reflected his essence, the flowing rivers, the fish that darted within, and the reeds that swayed along the banks. These were not just elements of nature but extensions of Enki himself, signs of his presence in the world. The canals that crisscrossed the Sumerian fields were like veins in a living body, carrying his life-giving essence to every corner of the land. Each drop of water, each ripple, carried with it the wisdom of the god who understood the interdependence of all things. Enki's role in Sumerian society was profound. He wasn't a distant creator but an active participant in the everyday lives of his people. Farmers prayed to him for the right balance of water and earth, for the wisdom to tend their fields, and for the resilience to face the unpredictable whims of nature. Fishermen called on him to guide their nets and fill their baskets. Even scribes and scholars honored Enki, seeing his hand in the knowledge they preserved and passed down. But Enki was more than a patron of survival, he was a reminder of the sacred interconnectedness of life. The Sumerians knew that the earth and water were not separate forces but parts of a whole, bound together by divine will. Enki embodied this unity, showing them that life's greatest strength lay in cooperation and harmony between elements, and in the wisdom to navigate the cycles of change. Even now, thousands of years later, the essence of Enki remains. In every river that nourishes the land, in every act of creation born from ingenuity, and in every effort to find balance between nature's forces, his presence lingers. The earth and water still dance their timeless dance, a tribute to the god who first taught humanity to see the sacred in their union. Before gods and men walked the earth, before even the stars adorned the sky, there was Gaia. She was not born, for she was existence itself, the unshaped, eternal ground from which all things arose. Gaia was the earth, vast and enduring, a presence that stretched beyond comprehension. She was life's foundation, its cradle and its grave. Her breath was the wind, her body the soil, her veins the rivers. In her, all potential lay dormant, waiting for the spark of creation. Gaia's story begins at the dawn of all things, when chaos, formless, empty, was all there was. From this void, Gaia emerged, the first tangible being. She was not carved by some external hand or spoken into being by an unseen force. She was self-formed, self-sufficient. Gaia was the earth personified, but more than that, she was the very concept of stability and nurturing. She existed to give life and to hold it, her every curve and crevice a promise of shelter. As the primordial mother, Gaia gave birth to the sky, Uranus, who stretched above her in a protective embrace. From their union came the first generation of life, the Titans, the Cyclopes, and the Hundred-Handed Ones. These were not gentle creations, they were forces of raw power and untamed potential. The Titans, like their mother, represented the primal forces of the universe, elemental and overwhelming. Yet, even in this early stage of existence, Gaia's nurturing side shone through. She loved her children fiercely, even those cast aside by Uranus for their monstrous forms. But love was not the only force Gaia embodied. She was also fierce, protective, and unyielding. When Uranus cast the Cyclopes and Hundred-Handed Ones into Tartarus, the deepest pit of the earth, Gaia's heart ached with rage and sorrow. She could not abide injustice, even from her own creation. It was Gaia who conspired with her son Cronus to overthrow Uranus, crafting the great sickle of adamant that Cronus would use to sever the sky from the earth. This act wasn't merely an act of rebellion, it was the first assertion of balance and change, a declaration that even the most powerful must be held accountable. The blood of Uranus, spilled upon Gaia, gave rise to new life, furies, giants, and nymphs. Even destruction bore creation in Gaia's realm. She was the earth, and from her, everything returned, transformed into something new. Life and death were not opposites in her, they were part of an eternal cycle. Gaia's role in the creation myths did not end with the Titans. When Cronus, having overthrown his father, began to devour his own children to prevent a similar fate, it was Gaia who once again intervened. She conspired with Rhea, Cronus's wife, to save the infant Zeus, hiding him away in a cave on Crete. The earth itself became a sanctuary, its caves a womb that sheltered and protected. Gaia's touch was everywhere in these moments, a quiet force shaping the course of history. Zeus's eventual victory over Cronus and the Titans was the fulfillment of Gaia's vision for balance. Yet, even as the Olympian gods took their place in the heavens, Gaia remained a powerful presence. She was not bound by the conflicts of gods and men. She was the earth beneath their feet, the ever-present witness to their triumphs and tragedies. Her descendants, the gods, monsters, and heroes, carried her essence, their stories always linked to the earth from which they sprang. Gaia's presence extended far beyond the myths of the Titans and Olympians. She was invoked in rites and prayers, honored as the ultimate source of life and fertility. Farmers turned the soil with a silent nod to her, mothers prayed to her for safe births, and warriors called upon her to hold them steady in battle. Gaia wasn't just a figure of myth, she was the constant in a world of chaos, the unshakable foundation that endured even as kingdoms rose and fell. In the lush valleys of Greece, where olive trees twisted their roots deep into the soil, and in the shadow of Mount Olympus, Gaia's spirit lingered. She was the hum of bees in a meadow, the rush of water over stones, the solid ground beneath a traveler's feet. Her myths may have been told and retold, but her presence needed no words. Gaia was the earth itself, primal, eternal, and alive. Yet, her story is not one of quiet contentment. Even as she nurtured life, she bore witness to its flaws. She saw the arrogance of gods, the greed of men, and the endless cycles of violence and retribution. Gaia wasn't a passive bystander, she was a participant, her actions shaping the fates of gods and mortals alike. When the earth quaked or the mountains erupted, it was her voice, a reminder of her power and the respect she commanded. Gaia's legacy lives on, not just in the myths, but in the very fabric of the natural world. Her story is told in every seed that splits open to reach for the sun, in every forest that grows tall and thick, and in every piece of earth that shelters life. She is the beginning and the end, the silent force that holds everything together. And though the gods of Olympus may fade into legend, Gaia's presence remains, eternal as the ground beneath our feet. High upon the rugged mountains of Phrygia, where the winds howled through pine-covered peaks and wildflowers bloomed in defiant bursts of color, Cybele's spirit was said to dwell. To her devotees, she was not merely a goddess, she was the earth itself, fierce and untamed. Known as the Great Mother, Cybele embodied the primal forces of nature, a protector of life and a harbinger of its cycles. Her presence was as vast as the mountains she claimed as her throne, a reminder of both the nurturing and untamable aspects of the world. Cybele's origins stretched back to the ancient Anatolian people, who revered her as a deity of fertility and nature. She was depicted as a majestic figure, often enthroned and flanked by lions, symbols of her power and dominion over the wild. Her crown of towers reflected her role as a protector of cities, but her essence was rooted in the wilderness. The forests, rivers, and untamed landscapes were her domain, and her worshippers honored her as the guardian of all that lived and grew. Her rituals were unlike those of other deities. Cybele's worship was not restrained by the solemnity often associated with religion. It was raw, visceral, and ecstatic. Drums thundered, flutes shrieked, and her followers danced in frenzied abandon, losing themselves in the rhythm of life that Cybele represented. Her rites celebrated the primal, the unrestrained, and the connection between humanity and the earth. These ceremonies, often held in remote mountain sanctuaries, reflected the untamed spirit of the goddess herself. Central to Cybele's mythology was her relationship with Attis, a mortal shepherd of extraordinary beauty. The tale varies in its telling, but its core is one of passion, betrayal, and renewal. Attis, who pledged himself to Cybele, broke his vow of fidelity, leading to his tragic demise. Overcome with grief, Cybele transformed him into an evergreen tree, symbolizing eternal life and the cycles of nature. This myth became the cornerstone of her worship, a story that mirrored the death and rebirth seen in the changing seasons. As her cult spread beyond Phrygia, it found a receptive audience in the Roman Empire. Rome, with its pragmatic view of gods as protectors and patrons, embraced Cybele's ferocity and nurturing power. She was introduced to Rome during a time of crisis, in 204 BCE, as the city faced the looming threat of Hannibal's armies. The Sibylline oracles, sacred texts consulted in times of peril, advised bringing the Great Mother to Rome to ensure victory. Her arrival, marked by a black meteorite believed to embody her essence, was celebrated with grand processions and rituals. From that moment, Cybele became an integral part of Roman religious life. In Rome, Cybele's worship retained its Phrygian roots but adapted to fit the city's traditions. The annual festival of Megalesia celebrated her with music, games, and theatrical performances. Yet, it was the secretive and intense rituals of her priests, the Galli, that most captured the imagination. The Galli, eunuchs who devoted themselves entirely to Cybele, embodied her dual nature as both a nurturer and a force of transformation. They renounced earthly ties, symbolizing their complete surrender to the goddess and the wild forces she represented. The Galli ceremonies were vivid and unforgettable. Clad in flowing robes, they danced to the pounding of drums and the piercing sound of flutes, their movements a blend of grace and abandon. In their frenzy, they would lacerate themselves, their blood an offering to Cybele, a ritual echoing the themes of sacrifice and renewal in her mythology. For outsiders, these rites could be shocking, but for her followers, they were a sacred expression of devotion and unity with the goddess's power. Cybele's influence in Roman culture extended beyond religion. She became a symbol of the empire's strength and resilience, a protector who stood watch over the city and its people. Her temples, often situated on hills or near natural springs, were spaces of reverence and reflection. They were also places where her worshippers sought healing and guidance, viewing Cybele as a compassionate mother who could ease their burdens and grant them peace. Despite her integration into Roman society, Cybele never lost her connection to the wild. She remained a reminder of nature's duality, its ability to nurture and destroy, to create and reclaim. Her lions, always at her side, were a potent symbol of her untamed spirit, a force that could be harnessed but never controlled. In this way, Cybele stood apart from other deities, her essence rooted in the primal truths of existence. For women, Cybele held a special resonance. She was a figure of empowerment, a goddess who embodied the strength and complexity of the feminine. Her role as a protector of fertility and life resonated deeply, and her worship offered a sense of solidarity and connection to the cycles of nature. Yet she was also a figure of independence, a deity who stood apart from the constraints of societal expectations. Cybele's story is one of resilience and transformation, a testament to the enduring power of nature and its ability to adapt and thrive. Her worship, though it waned with the rise of Christianity, left an indelible mark on the cultures that embraced her. Today, her essence can still be felt in the wild places of the world, and the untamed beauty of nature that reminds us of the ancient forces that shaped our existence. Even as civilizations rise and fall, Cybele's presence endures, a force of life and wildness, a mother and a protector, a reminder that we are forever tied to the earth and its unbreakable cycles. In the golden fields of ancient Greece, where wheat swayed under the summer sun and olive trees whispered secrets to the breeze, the presence of Demeter was palpable. She was not just a goddess to the Greeks, she was life itself, the force that brought food to their tables and hope to their hearts. Demeter was the giver of grain, the nurturer of crops, and the mother of the seasons. Yet, beneath her nurturing image lay a story of loss, love, and resilience that resonated with all who tilled the earth. The myth of Demeter and her daughter Persephone is one of the most poignant in Greek mythology. Persephone, radiant and full of life, was the light of her mother's world. Together, they shared an unbreakable bond, a harmony that mirrored the cycles of nature. But this balance was shattered when Hades, the lord of the underworld, cast his gaze upon Persephone and claimed her as his bride. The earth trembled as he carried her away to his shadowy domain, leaving Demeter's heart broken and her spirit consumed by grief. Demeter's sorrow was not the quiet kind. It roared through the land like a tempest, halting the cycles of life. The fields withered, the rivers ran dry, and famine gripped the mortal world. Her pain became the earth's pain, a visceral reminder that the divine was inextricably linked to the human. No seed could sprout, no fruit could ripen, as long as her anguish endured. She wandered the earth, disguised as a mortal, searching for her daughter. Her tears fell as rain, her cries echoed in the winds. It was in the small town of Eleusis that Demeter found solace, if only briefly. Disguised as an old woman, she was taken in by the humble household of King Celeus and his wife, Metanera. In gratitude, Demeter sought to make their infant son immortal, a gesture of her boundless love for the innocent. But when her divine nature was revealed, the moment passed, leaving behind the promise of immortality as a fleeting dream. This episode in the myth reflects the bittersweet nature of life itself, a tension between hope and loss. Eventually, the plight of mortals reached the ears of Zeus, who, though king of the gods, was powerless against Demeter's resolve. Her wrath had brought the world to its knees, and even the heavens could not ignore the cries of famine. Zeus sent Hermes, the swift messenger, to the underworld to negotiate Persephone's return. But the underworld had its own rules. Before Persephone could leave, she was tricked into eating the seeds of a pomegranate, a bond to Hades that ensured she could never fully escape his realm. The compromise reached was bittersweet. Persephone would spend part of the year with her mother, bringing spring's renewal and summer's abundance. But for a portion of the year, she would return to the underworld, plunging the earth into autumn's decline and winter's stillness. This cycle became an allegory for the seasons, a story of death and rebirth etched into the rhythms of nature. Through it all, Demeter's love for her daughter endured, a reminder that even in loss, there is hope. Demeter's worship was central to Greek life, particularly in the rites of the Eleusinian mysteries. These sacred ceremonies, held in her honor, were shrouded in secrecy, their true nature known only to the initiated. Yet their essence was clear. They were celebrations of life, death, and the promise of renewal. The mysteries offered a glimpse of the divine, a sense of unity with the forces that governed existence. Participants would walk in the footsteps of Demeter, experiencing her grief, her joy, and her unyielding strength. The rites began with solemn preparation, a purification in the waters of the sea, symbolic of washing away the burdens of life. Pilgrims would then embark on a sacred procession from Athens to Eleusis, carrying torches that pierced the night like stars. Their chants filled the air, a chorus of voices echoing across time. In the heart of Eleusis, they would enter the Telesterion, a grand hall where the deepest secrets of the mysteries unfolded. There, through ritual, symbol, and story, they would witness the cycles of life and death, emerging with a sense of renewal. The mysteries held profound meaning for the ancient Greeks. They were more than religious ceremonies, they were a testament to humanity's connection to the earth and the divine. Through Demeter's story, her followers found comfort in the face of mortality and strength in the inevitability of change. The rituals reinforced the idea that life cycles, its joys and sorrows, its beginnings and endings, were not random but part of a greater harmony. Demeter's influence extended far beyond the mysteries. She was a constant presence in the lives of farmers, who prayed to her for fertile fields and bountiful harvests. Her festivals, marked by feasting and celebration, were times of gratitude and reflection. Even in the chaos of war or the uncertainties of politics, Demeter's steady hand guided the rhythms of life, a reminder that the earth's cycles continued, unbroken. Yet Demeter was not merely a goddess of agriculture, she was a symbol of resilience. Her story was one of survival, of enduring the unbearable and finding strength in love. She taught humanity that loss is not the end, that life continues in cycles of renewal. Her tale, rooted in the soil and carried on the wind, became a part of the Greek psyche, a story told with every seed planted and every harvest gathered. As the seasons turn, Demeter's presence remains. In the first blossoms of spring, the golden fields of summer, the falling leaves of autumn, and the stillness of winter, her story lives on. She is the mother, the nurturer, and the guide, forever entwined with the earth and its endless cycles. Through her, the Greeks saw the profound beauty of life's rhythms, a beauty that still resonates in every corner of the natural world. In the bustling heart of Rome, where triumphal arches soared and the Tiber flowed like a steady lifeline, there was a presence more enduring than any emperor or monument. It was Tellus Mater, Mother Earth herself, the silent guardian of Rome's fields and the provider of its sustenance. To the Romans, she was more than a goddess, she was the embodiment of the earth's boundless fertility, a force that shaped their civilization and ensured their survival. Her essence was woven into the fabric of Roman life, from the humblest farm to the grandest temple. Tellus Mater's significance was rooted in her role as the goddess of the earth, responsible for agriculture, fertility, and stability. In a society that thrived on the produce of its land, Tellus was both revered and indispensable. She was celebrated in rituals that honored her nurturing spirit and sought her blessings for bountiful harvests. The Romans understood that their prosperity was inextricably tied to the soil beneath their feet, and so they turned to Tellus, offering her reverence and gratitude. One of the most prominent ceremonies dedicated to Tellus was the Forticidia, held each April. This ancient agricultural festival was a plea for the earth's fertility as the planting season began. Cows, symbols of abundance and nurturing, were sacrificed in her honor. The ashes of these offerings were later used in another ritual, the Perilia, a celebration of the god Paels and the purification of shepherds and their flocks. These interconnected ceremonies illustrated the Romans' deep understanding of the cycles of nature and their reliance on divine favor for survival. The Templum Telluris, her temple on the Esquiline Hill, stood as a testament to her enduring importance. It wasn't adorned with the opulence of some other temples, for its purpose was utilitarian, like the goddess herself. Here, rituals ensured the land remained fertile and the city's foundation stable. Tellus was not a goddess of extravagance, she was a deity of necessity, a reminder that the earth's gifts were the bedrock of all human achievement. As Rome expanded its borders and absorbed the traditions of conquered lands, Tellus Mater's role evolved. The Romans, pragmatic in their spirituality, welcomed other earth deities into their pantheon, blending their attributes with those of Tellus. From the east came Cybele, the great mother of Phrygia, whose wild and ecstatic rituals offered a vivid contrast to Tellus's quiet endurance. From Greece came Gaia, the primordial earth, and Demeter, goddess of agriculture. Each brought new dimensions to the Roman understanding of the earth's power. Rather than diminishing Tellus's role, this integration of deities enriched her identity. She became part of a broader tapestry of earth goddesses, each reflecting a different aspect of humanity's relationship with nature. Cybele's fierce independence, Demeter's nurturing grief, and Gaia's primordial force, all of these were seen as complementary to Tellus's steady, grounding presence. Together, they represented the many faces of the earth, a mosaic of life, death, and renewal. Tellus was also linked to other Roman deities, forming a network of divine cooperation. She was often associated with Ceres, the Roman goddess of grain, and rituals that celebrated the earth's bounty. Together, they ensured the continuity of life, their combined influence extending from the smallest family farm to the sprawling estates of the elite. Tellus also had a connection to Vulcan, the god of fire and craftsmanship, symbolizing the partnership between earth and industry. In times of uncertainty, the Romans turned to Tellus for stability. Her presence was invoked in ceremonies aimed at securing the city's foundations and protecting it from earthquakes and other natural disasters. This role was both practical and symbolic. To the Romans, a stable earth was a stable Rome, and Tellus's favor was a guarantee of both. She was a protector as much as a provider, her unseen hand steadying the empire even in its most tumultuous moments. Tellus Mater's story is not one of drama or grand mythological feats. Unlike some gods who commanded lightning or waged epic wars, her power lay in the quiet, enduring presence of the earth itself. She was the soil that fed the crops, the ground that supported the city's monuments, and the unyielding force that withstood the passage of time. In her, the Romans saw a reflection of their own resilience, a reminder that true strength comes not from spectacle but from persistence. As the empire grew and its cultural horizons expanded, Tellus Mater remained a constant, her image enduring even as the gods of Rome shifted and changed. In her simplicity and universality, she transcended borders and beliefs. Tellus was not bound to one city or one people, she was the earth, a presence that united all who relied on her bounty. Her rituals and ceremonies may have faded with the rise of Christianity and the fall of Rome, but Tellus Mater's essence lives on. She is the ground beneath our feet, the rhythm of the seasons, and the quiet assurance that life will persist. In every planted seed and every harvest reaped, her spirit endures, a timeless reminder of humanity's bond with the earth and the goddess who embodies it. In the dense, mist-laden forests and marshlands of ancient Germania, where rivers carved through the land like veins of life, the presence of Nerthus was revered with awe and reverence. To the early Germanic tribes, she was no ordinary deity. She was the Earth Mother, a sacred force that governed the cycles of nature and the very essence of existence. Unlike the warrior gods who roared in the heat of battle, Nerthus was the quiet, commanding spirit of the soil, the forests, and the waters. Her worship, shrouded in mystery, was marked by rituals that intertwined humanity with the land in an unbreakable bond. The earliest accounts of Nerthus come from the Roman historian Tacitus in his work, Germania. To him, the rituals surrounding her were both strange and sacred. He described how her image, housed in a sacred chariot, was veiled and hidden away for much of the year. Yet, when the time came for her presence to grace the land, the atmosphere shifted. The people would prepare with solemnity, for her emergence marked a season of peace and prosperity. The chariot, a symbol of her divine presence, was kept in a grove on an island, its location known only to her priests. This grove was considered the holiest of places, where Nerthus herself was believed to dwell. Her image, draped in cloth to shield her from mortal eyes, was brought forth when the seasons demanded her blessing. The chariot, drawn by oxen, became a moving altar, carrying the goddess as she traveled through the tribes. Her procession was a time of profound reverence. As the chariot passed, the people ceased their quarrels and laid down their arms, for it was forbidden to engage in violence while Nerthus walked among them. Fields were left unplowed, and daily tasks were set aside. The land and its people paused, united in their devotion. It was a time of renewal, a moment when the boundaries between the divine and the mortal seemed to blur. The significance of Nerthus's chariot extended beyond her mere presence. It was a vessel of life, fertility, and the promise of abundance. As the chariot rolled across the land, it was believed to awaken the earth, ensuring the growth of crops and the prosperity of the tribes. Her journey was also a symbolic reminder of the cycles of life, dormancy, awakening, and flourishing, etched into the rhythms of nature. When the procession concluded, the rituals did not end. The chariot, along with Nerthus's veiled image, was returned to the sacred grove. There, in an act of profound purification, it was washed by her priests in a secluded lake. This lake, like the grove, was sacred ground. The waters that touched the goddess's image became imbued with divine essence, a source of cleansing and renewal. Tacitus notes that the slaves who performed this ritual were sacrificed, their deaths an offering to the goddess. While chilling to modern sensibilities, this act reflected the deep intertwining of life and death in her worship, a belief in sacrifice as part of the earth's endless cycle. Nerthus's role in the seasonal rhythms of life cannot be overstated. Her emergence from the grove heralded the arrival of spring, a time when the frozen earth thawed and life returned. The land, once barren, became fertile under her gaze. Her departure back into seclusion marked the transition to winter, a period of rest and dormancy. In this way, Nerthus's presence mirrored the cycles of growth and decay that defined existence. For the Germanic tribes, Nerthus was more than a deity of agriculture. She was the earth itself, the provider of life's essentials and the force that sustained them. Her rituals fostered a connection to the land that was both spiritual and practical. In honoring Nerthus, the people honored the earth, acknowledging their dependence on its bounty and their place within its cycles. Her influence extended beyond the physical world. Nerthus was also a unifying force among the tribes. Her processions brought communities together, setting aside conflicts in favor of shared reverence. In a land of scattered tribes and shifting alliances, this sense of unity was no small achievement. Nerthus reminded her followers that, despite their differences, they all relied on the same earth, the same seasons, and the same divine force that governed them. As time passed and the Germanic tribes encountered new religions and cultures, the worship of Nerthus faded. Yet, traces of her spirit lingered, woven into the fabric of later traditions. The cycles of the earth, the reverence for sacred groves, and the seasonal rituals persisted in various forms, a testament to her enduring influence. Today, the echoes of Nerthus can still be felt in the natural world she embodied. In the turning of the seasons, the fertile fields, and the quiet forests, her essence remains. She was the Earth Mother, the sacred presence that reminded humanity of its deep connection to the land, a bond that, though often forgotten, is as eternal as the cycles of nature itself. In the verdant hills and mist-shrouded glens of ancient Celtic lands, where rivers coursed like silver threads and the wind carried whispers of the otherworld, the spirit of Danu was revered as the great mother of all. She was more than a goddess to the Celts, she was the wellspring of life, a force that transcended the boundaries of time and space. To speak of Danu was to speak of the earth, the rivers, and the heavens. She was the breath of life, the soil that nurtured, and the source from which all existence flowed. Danu's name resonates with mystery, a reflection of her ancient and all-encompassing nature. She is the matron of the Tuatha De Danann, the people of the goddess Danu, a divine race whose stories echo with the magic of Ireland's sacred past. These were not mere beings of myth, they were the embodiment of wisdom, artistry, and sovereignty, and they carried the essence of Danu within them. Through them, her legacy flourished, shaping the land and the culture that sprang from it. Danu's connection to the land was profound. To the Celts, the earth was not inert, it was alive, imbued with spirit and power. The rivers that snaked through the valleys, the mountains that stood as ancient sentinels, and the fertile plains, all were manifestations of Danu's essence. The river Danube, one of Europe's mightiest waterways, is believed to bear her name, a living testament to her enduring influence. To follow its course was to trace the lifeblood of the goddess herself. As a goddess of fertility, Danu represented the cycles of growth and renewal. The Celts saw these cycles mirrored in their own lives and in the land they cultivated. The sowing of seeds, the ripening of crops, and the harvest were sacred acts, each imbued with her presence. Through these acts, Danu was not just a provider but a teacher, showing her people the rhythms of life and the balance between giving and receiving. Her blessings were sought not only for abundance but for the wisdom to respect the earth's gifts. Yet Danu's role extended beyond the physical world. She was a goddess of sovereignty, a concept central to Celtic spirituality. Sovereignty was not merely the right to rule, it was a sacred bond between the land and its people, a partnership that required respect, care, and harmony. Kings were chosen not for their might but for their ability to embody this balance. The land, personified by goddesses like Danu, granted authority to those who honored it and withdrew its favor from those who failed. This intertwining of land, fertility, and sovereignty was vividly expressed in the myths of the Tuatha De Danann. These divine beings, said to have descended from the heavens or emerged from the mists of the otherworld, were Danu's children in spirit if not in blood. They brought gifts of knowledge, magic, and art, shaping the Celtic world with their presence. Among them were Dagda, the All-Father, Brigid, the goddess of poetry and healing, and Lugh, the multi-talented warrior. Each carried a spark of Danu's essence, and through their deeds, they reinforced her connection to the land. The Tuatha De Danann's arrival in Ireland was a moment of transformation. They came as bringers of light and order, establishing themselves as stewards of the land. Yet, their rule was not uncontested. The myths tell of their struggles with the Fomorians, chaotic beings who represented the untamed forces of nature. These battles were not merely conflicts but cosmic events, symbolizing the balance between chaos and order, destruction and creation. In these tales, Danu's influence is implicit, a guiding force that ensured harmony prevailed. Rituals in Danu's honor were likely as varied as the landscape she encompassed. Though specific details are lost to time, the spirit of these ceremonies lives on in the reverence the Celts held for natural places. Sacred wells, standing stones, and ancient groves were all sites where her presence was felt. Offerings of milk, grains, and flowers were made to honor her and seek her favor. These rituals were acts of gratitude and connection, acknowledging the goddess as the source of all life and the protector of her people. Danu's influence was not confined to Ireland or the British Isles. Her essence can be found across the Celtic world, wherever rivers flow and mountains rise. In Brittany, Gaul, and beyond, the echoes of her name and her spirit linger. She was a goddess without borders, her presence as boundless as the wind and as eternal as the earth. Yet Danu's story is also one of resilience. As the Celts encountered new religions and ways of life, her worship waned, but her essence did not fade. The land itself remained her shrine, its rhythms a testament to her enduring power. Even today, In the stories of the Tuatha De Danann and the sacred sites scattered across Celtic lands, her spirit lives on. Danu's legacy is one of connection. She reminds us that the earth is not a resource to be exploited but a living, breathing entity deserving of respect and care. Through her, the Celts saw themselves not as masters of the land but as its stewards, a lesson that resonates as deeply now as it did in the ancient past. Her name may be whispered on the wind, but her presence is in every blade of grass, every flowing river, and every heartbeat. In the rolling plains, dense forests, and sun-dappled meadows of ancient Slavic lands, there was a goddess whose essence permeated the soil, rivers, and hearths of her people. Mokash, the moist earth mother, was more than a deity of fertility and harvest. She was the life-giving force that bound her followers to the land and to one another. Her presence was as constant as the rain, as vital as the first shoots of spring, and as enduring as the weaving that symbolized the fabric of existence itself. Mokash's name is believed to stem from the Slavic word for moisture, reflecting her intimate connection to water and its nurturing power. In an agrarian society where the success of crops depended on the balance of rain and sun, Mokash was the guardian of life's essential elements. She was the earth made fertile by rain, the streams that sustained villages, and the dew that clung to fields at dawn. Her influence was woven into every drop of water that touched the land. But Mokash was more than just a goddess of physical sustenance. She embodied the cycles of life and death, growth and decay. To the Slavs, the earth was alive, a dynamic force that demanded respect and gratitude. Mokash represented this living earth, her moist touch a reminder that life springs from the soil and returns to it. Her worship was a testament to the intimate relationship between the people and the land they called home. Rituals in Mokash's honor were deeply rooted in the rhythms of agricultural life. Offerings of milk, honey, and bread, symbols of sustenance and prosperity, were left at sacred sites such as wells, springs, and trees. These places were seen as points of connection between the physical and spiritual realms, where Mokash's presence was strongest. Women, who were particularly associated with her worship, often led these rituals, recognizing her as a protector of fertility, childbirth, and the household. One of Mokash's most enduring symbols was her connection to weaving and spinning, crafts deeply tied to the cycles of life. In Slavic tradition, weaving was more than a practical skill, it was a sacred act, a reflection of the interconnected threads of existence. As women spun wool or flax, they invoked Mokash's guidance, believing that she watched over their work. The loom became a metaphor for the world, each thread representing a life, and Mokash was the weaver who maintained its balance. Her role as a protector of women extended beyond their crafts. Mokash was revered as a guardian of fertility and childbirth, the ultimate source of life. Women prayed to her for safe deliveries and healthy children, and midwives often invoked her name during labor. She was also seen as a moral force, rewarding those who lived in harmony with the land and punishing those who defied its sacred rhythms. The persistence of Mokash's worship, even in the face of Christianity's spread across Slavic lands, speaks to her deep resonance with the people. While many pagan gods were demonized or forgotten, Mokash was absorbed into the new faith, her attributes transferred to saints or preserved in folk traditions. In Russian Orthodox iconography, the Virgin Mary often took on aspects of Mokash, becoming a protector of fertility, households, and the land. Yet Mokash's presence remained distinct in rural customs and seasonal festivals. During celebrations like Kupala Night, a midsummer festival honoring fertility and nature, echoes of her worship could still be heard in songs, dances, and rituals involving water and fire. Women continued to leave offerings at wells and springs, even as they crossed themselves in Christian prayer. In these acts, the old and new faiths intertwined, allowing Mokash's spirit to endure. Mokash's image in folklore often portrays her as a tall, strong woman with a stern yet nurturing demeanor. She is sometimes depicted holding symbols of her domains, spindles, sheaves of grain, or a jug of water. This representation reflects her dual nature as both provider and protector, a goddess who could bless the fields with abundance or withhold her favor if disrespected. Her connection to moisture and fertility also made Mokash a goddess of sensuality and passion. She celebrated life in all its forms, embracing the physical and spiritual union that brought new life into the world. This aspect of her character further reinforced her role as a life giver and a reminder of humanity's deep bond with the natural world. Mokasha's influence transcends her origins in pre-Christian Slavic religion. She is a symbol of resilience, embodying the enduring relationship between people and the earth. Her legacy lives on in the traditions, stories, and landscapes of Eastern Europe, where the land still whispers her name. Every drop of rain that nourishes the soil, every thread woven into fabric, and every act of gratitude for nature's gifts carries a fragment of her spirit. Through Mokash, the moist earth mother, the Slavs understood that the earth was not a possession but a partner, a living force deserving of reverence and care. Her worship was a pledge of harmony with the natural world, a timeless lesson that resonates as strongly today as it did in the ancient past. Under the blazing sun and the shifting sands of ancient Egypt, where the Nile's waters carved a lifeline through the desert, Geb was the earth itself, a living, breathing presence that carried the weight of the world. He was not merely the soil underfoot or the fertile fields that sustained life. He was a god of immense power and significance, part of the intricate tapestry of Egyptian cosmology. In the Heliopolitan Ennead, a divine family that shaped the cosmos, Geb's role was both foundational and enduring. Born from the union of Shu, the god of air, and Tefnut, the goddess of moisture, Geb was a child of balance. Shu and Tefnut embodied opposing forces, air and water, that created a harmonious world. From their union came Geb and Nut, his sister and counterpart, the sky. Together, they formed the primal dichotomy of earth and heaven, a relationship as tender as it was tumultuous. The myths speak of Geb and Nut's deep connection, a love so profound that it threatened the balance of the cosmos. Embraced in an eternal union, the two deities disrupted the order established by their father, Shu, and grandfather, Adam, the creator god. To restore balance, Shu separated them, lifting Nut high above to become the sky while Geb remained below as the earth. This act was not without heartbreak. Geb and Nut were forever parted, destined to gaze at each other from afar. Despite their separation, their bond endured in the cycles of life. Geb's fertile body bore the rivers, mountains, and fertile fields, while Nut's arching form cradled the stars. Together, they created the environment in which life flourished. Geb's laughter, it was said, caused earthquakes, a reminder that the earth was alive and powerful. His body nurtured the seeds that sprouted and the rivers that sustained all living beings, making him an essential part of Egyptian existence. In the Heliopolitan Ennead, Geb's role was multifaceted. He was both a creator and a king, a provider and a judge. As the father of Osiris, Isis, Seth, and Nephthys, gods who shaped much of Egyptian myth, Geb's legacy extended through his children. Osiris, the god of the afterlife, carried Geb's influence into the realm of death and rebirth, while Isis, the goddess of magic and motherhood, embodied his nurturing aspects. One of Geb's most significant roles was as the judge of inheritance and kingship. In Egyptian thought, the pharaoh was often described as the heir of Geb, a title that linked the ruler's authority directly to the god of the earth. This connection was both symbolic and practical, reinforcing the pharaoh's role as a steward of the land. Geb's blessing was crucial for the prosperity of Egypt, where the annual flooding of the Nile replenished the soil and ensured bountiful harvests. Without the earth's fertility, life in Egypt would wither, and so Geb's favor was a matter of life and death. Geb's relationship with his children was not without strife. The myths tell of his decision to divide his kingdom among them, a choice that sowed the seeds of conflict. Seth, the god of chaos and storms, was given dominion over the desert, while Osiris, representing life and fertility, ruled the green and prosperous lands along the Nile. This division mirrored the duality of Geb's own nature, nurturing yet powerful, fertile yet dangerous. The tension between Osiris and Seth, culminating in Seth's murder of his brother, became one of the most enduring tales in Egyptian mythology, a reflection of the eternal struggle between order and chaos. As a deity, Geb was often depicted lying beneath Nut, his green or brown body symbolizing the fertile earth. His skin was adorned with plants and rivers, emphasizing his role as the source of life. In some depictions, his limbs were mountains, his back the valleys and plains, a literal embodiment of the physical world. His connection to the Nile was especially vital, as the river was Egypt's lifeblood. The inundation, an annual event that brought water and silt to the land, was a divine act attributed to the harmony between Geb and the other gods. Geb's role extended into the afterlife, where his judgment was sought. In the Egyptian belief system, the dead entered the Hall of Ma'at, where their hearts were weighed against the feather of truth. Geb, as the earth, was a silent witness to their lives, having observed every step and action. His presence in this process underscored his dual role as both the giver of life and the arbiter of justice. Despite his pivotal role in Egyptian cosmology, Geb was not worshipped as a primary deity with grand temples and elaborate rituals. Instead, his influence was woven into the everyday life and spirituality of the people. Farmers plowed the earth with a sense of reverence, knowing they tilled the god's body. Rituals to other gods, such as Osiris or the Nile god Hapi, often invoked Geb's blessings indirectly, acknowledging his foundational role in sustaining life. The legacy of Geb is one of balance and interconnectedness. He was a reminder that the earth is both a gift and a responsibility, a source of sustenance that demands respect and care. In a land where survival hinged on the harmony of nature, Geb embodied the delicate equilibrium between abundance and devastation. His myths and symbolism continue to resonate, offering timeless lessons about humanity's relationship with the earth and the cosmos. Though his laughter may have caused the ground to tremble, it also brought life to the soil, a paradox that captures the essence of Geb, the ever-present, ever-powerful earth beneath our feet. In the heart of West Africa, where the sun casts long shadows over the fertile plains and rolling hills, the earth itself was seen not just as a resource, but as a living, breathing mother. Asasia, the earth goddess of the Akan people, embodied this profound connection between humanity and the land. She was the nurturing figure who sustained life and the moral compass that guided the people in their relationship with nature. Her presence was everywhere, in the crops that grew tall and strong, in the deep roots that anchored the trees, in the soil that held the spirits of the ancestors. She was, quite simply, the earth itself, both a mother and a moral authority whose power was as boundless as the land she ruled. To the Akan people, earth was not something to be exploited or taken for granted. It was sacred, revered as the source of all life, and this deep reverence was embodied in the goddess Asasia. She was not just the physical earth, but the spirit that gave it life and the soul that connected all living beings to it. Earth was seen as the mother of all, the one who cradled her children in her arms and fed them with abundance. In her soil, the dead rested, and from her, the living drew nourishment and strength. Asasia's connection to farming was intrinsic. The Akan people, like many African societies, were primarily agricultural, and their lives revolved around the rhythms of planting and harvesting. Crops were more than just food, they were a gift from the goddess, and they carried her spirit. The first fruits of the harvest were always offered to Asasia in thanksgiving. Without her blessings, the land would be barren, the crops would fail, and survival would be impossible. It was not enough to merely cultivate the soil, the people needed to live in harmony with it, acknowledging the sacredness of the earth and its ability to sustain life. The rituals surrounding Asasia were centered around respect and gratitude. Her worship was not bound by grand temples or complex rites, but it was woven into the daily life of the Akan. Before they planted, they would offer prayers to Asasia, asking for her favor and guidance. Before they harvested, they would give thanks, honoring the goddess who had given them the bounty. During important life events, such as weddings or births, the earth was invoked, for it was believed that she was the one who would bless these moments and ensure that they were fruitful. Asasia's influence extended far beyond the physical earth. She was also a guardian of morality and justice. The Akan believed that the earth was the foundation of all moral law, and that living in harmony with it meant living in harmony with one another. Asasia's guidance was sought not just in matters of agriculture, but in matters of family, community, and governance. If a person wronged another, it was believed that the earth itself would bear witness to the wrongdoing and bring justice. The earth, in this sense, was not just a nurturing mother, but a moral authority that ensured balance and fairness. In the Akan worldview, the connection between the living and the dead was also mediated by the earth. The ancestors, who had passed into the realm of the spirits, were thought to reside within the earth. They were not gone forever, but continued to influence the lives of the living. Asasia, the earth goddess, was the bridge between these worlds, and it was through her that the spirits of the ancestors could interact with the living. Rituals were performed to honor the ancestors, calling upon them for guidance and blessings. These ceremonies often took place outdoors, in fields or near sacred trees, where the earth could be directly touched and the spirits could be felt. It was said that Asasia had a special connection to women, as they were seen as the nurturers and caretakers of the earth. In many communities, women were the primary farmers, and they played a central role in rituals dedicated to the earth goddess. Their work was seen as sacred, for it was through their labor that the earth's abundance was realized. In this sense, the act of farming became an act of worship, a way of honoring Asasia and acknowledging her power. Despite the challenges that came with farming in a land that could be both generous and unforgiving, the Akan people believed that Asasia would always provide as long as they remained faithful to her. They understood that their relationship with the earth was one of balance. The earth could be generous, but it could also be harsh. If the people did not honor it properly, if they did not live in harmony with it, they would face the consequences. Droughts, famine, and pestilence were seen as signs of the earth goddess's displeasure. But when the people showed respect, through prayers, offerings, and rituals, the land would respond in kind, bringing prosperity and abundance. Asasia's role in Akan society was not just as a deity to be worshipped, but as a constant, living force in the world. Her presence was felt in every plant, every seed, every tree. Her spirit lived in the fields and the forests, in the mountains and the rivers. She was the land, and the land was her. And in every act of farming, every prayer offered, every song sung, the people were reminded of this sacred bond. Her worship, though subtle, persisted through the generations. Even as the Akan people encountered new religions and outside influences, Asasia remained an enduring presence in their lives. She was not a deity that could be replaced or forgotten. Her essence was too deeply embedded in the culture, in the soil, and in the hearts of the people. To sever the connection between the people and the earth was to sever a part of their very identity. Asasia, the earth goddess, continues to embody the relationship between humanity and the land. She reminds the Akan people, and all who hear her story, that the earth is not just a resource to be used, but a living, sacred being to be respected, honored, and nurtured. Through her, they learned that the earth is both a mother and a moral guide, whose care and wisdom are essential to survival and to living a life of integrity. In every harvest, in every seed planted, and in every step taken on the land, Asasia's presence lives on, reminding her people of the deep, unbreakable bond between earth and spirit. High in the Andean mountains, where the peaks touch the sky and the valleys cradle the fertile lands below, Pachamama reigns as the Earth Mother, a goddess whose spirit breathes life into the soil, the mountains, and the rivers. She is the embodiment of the earth itself, nurturing, sustaining, and guiding the people who live in her embrace. To the indigenous peoples of the Andes, Pachamama is not just a deity, she is a living force that governs the cycles of nature, the balance of life, and the moral compass by which communities thrive. Pachamama's presence in South American spirituality is not limited to the past, she remains a deeply revered figure in the region today. Her influence transcends time, echoing through the generations, as her worship continues to shape rituals, customs, and beliefs. The Andean people see Pachamama as a nurturing mother who offers both life and death, who gives abundantly and demands respect in return. She is the spirit of the land, the very foundation of existence, and her power flows through every corner of the Andean world. Her significance to the Inca civilization, the most powerful empire in pre-Columbian South America, was profound. For the Incas, Pachamama was not just a goddess but a central figure in their cosmological framework. The Inca worldview was based on the interconnectedness of all things, the earth, the sky, and the sacred beings that inhabited both. The Incas believed that the earth was alive, and that Pachamama was the force that sustained all life. She was the giver of crops, the protector of animals, and the provider of resources for the people. Without her, the very foundations of Inca society would crumble. Agriculture, the lifeblood of the Inca Empire, was intrinsically linked to Pachamama. The Incas, known for their advanced agricultural techniques, understood that the earth was both a physical and spiritual entity. The fertility of the land was sacred, and Pachamama was the ultimate guardian of that fertility. The success of the harvests was seen as a direct reflection of her favor. To honor her, the Incas performed elaborate rituals, offering sacrifices and prayers to ensure a bountiful harvest and the prosperity of their people. Crops such as maize, potatoes, and quinoa were considered gifts from Pachamama, and her blessings were invoked during planting and harvesting seasons. One of the most important aspects of Pachamama's worship was the practice of reciprocity. The Andean people believed that they were in a constant exchange with the earth. Just as Pachamama provided the earth with her bounty, so too did the people offer their gratitude and sacrifices in return. The most common offerings to Pachamama included chicha, a fermented corn drink, coca leaves, and small ritual sacrifices such as llama or guinea pig. These offerings were made with the understanding that everything in the world was interconnected, and that to take from the earth without giving back would disrupt the balance of nature. The concept of reciprocity, known as Ani, was central to Inca agricultural practices. It was not just a one-way relationship between the people and Pachamama, it was a mutual exchange. The people gave to the earth, and in return, Pachamama gave them the resources necessary for survival. This relationship was not limited to crops and food, it extended to the natural world as a whole. Pachamama was believed to govern not only agriculture but also the mountains, rivers, and animals. Everything in nature was considered sacred, and Pachamama was the ultimate protector of all life. In Inca cosmology, the earth was divided into three main realms: the upper world, Hanan Pasha, the earthly realm, Ke Pasha, and the underworld, Uku Pasha. Pachamama ruled over the earthly realm, a domain where all living beings coexisted in harmony with nature. The upper and underworlds were ruled by other deities, but Pachamama was the heart of the Inca world, the source of life that connected all beings. She was the central axis around which the universe turned, and everything in the Inca Empire, people, animals, plants, and mountains, was considered a reflection of her spirit. Her connection to the natural world was so strong that the Andean people saw her in the landscape itself. The mountains, known as Apis, were considered sacred spirits, and many of them were believed to be manifestations of Pachamama's power. The towering peaks of the Andes were not just geographical features, but were seen as divine beings, watching over the people and protecting them from harm. The Inca capital of Cusco, for example, was considered to be the navel of the world, a sacred place where Pachamama's energy converged, linking the heavens and the earth. The rituals dedicated to Pachamama were often held at high-altitude sites, such as mountaintops and sacred valleys, where the earth's energy was believed to be most potent. The Incas performed ceremonies to honor Pachamama during critical moments of the agricultural cycle. During the planting season, they would conduct Thanksgiving ceremonies, offering their first fruits to her and asking for her blessing on the crops to come. In times of drought or hardship, they would hold ceremonies to appease her and restore balance to the land. The importance of Pachamama extended beyond the Inca Empire, influencing many of the indigenous cultures throughout the Andean region. Even today, in countries such as Peru, Bolivia, and Ecuador, Pachamama is still honored through festivals, prayers, and rituals. The Andean people continue to celebrate her presence in their daily lives, acknowledging her as the source of life and the keeper of harmony in the natural world. Pachamama's legacy is one of deep reverence for the earth and its resources. She teaches the people of the Andes that the earth is not to be owned or controlled, but to be respected and nurtured. Her enduring presence in South American spirituality is a reminder of the ancient wisdom that the earth and its inhabitants are inextricably linked. Through her, the Andean people continue to learn that the health of the land is the health of the people, and that only by living in balance with nature can they ensure the prosperity of future generations. In every mountain peak, in every river that flows, and in every harvest that is reaped, Pachamama's spirit lives on, an eternal force that sustains, nurtures, and connects all life. Her presence, though ancient, remains as vital today as it was in the time of the Incas, a testament to the timeless relationship between humanity and the earth. In the heart of the Aztec Empire, where towering pyramids pierced the sky and the great Tenochtitlan thrived on the shores of Lake Texcoco, the very essence of life was bound to maize. The sacred grain that nourished the people, shaped their destiny, and symbolized the divine. At the center of this maize-centered world was Centeotl, the Aztec god of maize, whose power was both revered and feared. Centeotl was more than just the god of a crop. He was the divine force that sustained life, a deity whose influence spanned the realms of creation, fertility, and even gender. The dual-gender nature of Centeotl, with both male and female aspects, symbolized the interconnectedness of all things, a balance between opposites that was key to the Aztec understanding of the universe. In the vibrant world of the Aztecs, maize wasn't simply food, it was the very foundation of their existence. The relationship between the people and maize was sacred. It was the crop that gave life, the staple food that nourished bodies and souls alike. Maize was woven into every aspect of Aztec life, from their religious ceremonies to their daily meals. It was believed that the first humans were made from maize dough, given form by the gods themselves. Without maize, there would be no life. It was as essential as the sun in the sky, and as powerful as the deities who governed it. Centeotl's role in this sacred world was immense. As the god of maize, Centeotl was responsible for the fertility of the land, ensuring that the crops grew tall and strong, that the harvests were bountiful, and that the people of the Aztec Empire had enough food to sustain them through the seasons. But Centeotl was not simply a god of abundance, he was also a deity of transformation and renewal. The maize was seen to embody cycles of life, death, and rebirth, the same cycles that the Aztecs understood to govern both the natural world and human existence. In a society so tied to agriculture, the importance of Centeotl was beyond measure. What set Centeotl apart from many other deities was the god's dual-gender nature. Centeotl was not just male or female, but both, an embodiment of balance and harmony in a world where opposites coexisted and complemented each other. The dual-gender nature of Centeotl was reflected in the way maize itself manifested in the world. The maize plant, with its male tassels and female ears, mirrored the balance between the genders in Aztec belief. Male and female energies were not separate or competing forces, but were seen as intertwined, working together to create life and sustain the world. This dual-gendered aspect of Centeotl had profound implications for how the Aztecs viewed the world around them. It reinforced their belief that balance was essential in all things, that harmony between opposites was necessary for creation and for the survival of life. The relationship between male and female energies was not merely symbolic, but was understood to be a fundamental force that drove the natural world. This belief was embedded deeply in Aztec society, where rituals, sacrifices, and ceremonies often reflected the need to maintain balance in both the human and divine worlds. Centeotl's importance to the Aztec people was also reflected in the vibrant ceremonies and rituals dedicated to him. The harvest festivals, most notably the Tlacalalero festival, were dedicated to the maize god. During these celebrations, offerings of maize and other crops were made, and the people would give thanks to Centeotl for the bounty he had provided. These festivals were not just times of joy, but were sacred events that reinforced the connection between the people and their land, between humanity and the divine. The ceremonies marked the cyclical nature of life, celebrating both the abundance of the harvest and the inevitable death of the old crops, which would then give way to new growth. The Aztecs believed that Centeotl's power could be channeled through these offerings and rituals. In times of drought or famine, the people would seek to appease the god with even greater devotion, offering sacrifices to ensure that the rains would come and the crops would flourish. Maize itself was sacred, seen as the body of the god, and was often used in ceremonies as a symbolic act of renewal. To the Aztecs, maize was a divine gift, a gift that not only fed the body but nourished the spirit, connecting them to the gods and to the very cycle of life and death. Centeotl's power was also intertwined with the concept of the Zaquiayotl, the flower and song, an essential concept in Aztec religion that represented life's ephemeral beauty, joy, and transformation. The blooming of flowers and the growth of crops were seen as sacred acts, as was the blooming of the maize plant. The maize stalk, like the flowering plant, was a symbol of life's fleeting nature. The Aztecs believed that Centeotl's power was present in every stage of the maize plant's growth, its planting, its blossoming, and its eventual harvest. Each stage of this process symbolized not only the god's power but also the cyclical nature of life itself, where death made way for new life, just as the maize was replanted each season. The god Centeotl was also a reminder of the intimate relationship the Aztecs had with their land. They did not view themselves as separate from nature but as a vital part of it. The land was sacred, and the maize that grew from it was the divine sustenance that connected them to the gods. Centeotl was not just the god of maize, he was the god of life, a reminder that everything was interconnected. Without maize, there was no life. Without life, there was no maize. The dual-gender nature of Centeotl also extended to the way the god was represented. In some depictions, Centeotl was shown as both male and female, embodying both the nurturing and the creative aspects of the earth. The male and female aspects of the god were believed to work together in a harmonious balance, just as the male and female parts of the maize plant work together to create life. This understanding of duality was central to the Aztec view of the cosmos, where all things existed in a delicate balance, and the gods themselves embodied the very forces that kept the world in order. As the Aztec Empire grew and expanded, so too did the reverence for Centeotl. Maize remained the central element of Aztec culture, and Centeotl's influence spread throughout the empire. The god became a symbol of both physical and spiritual nourishment, a figure who represented not just the crops that sustained the people but the very cycles of life, death, and rebirth that governed their world. Centeotl was not just a god to be worshipped, he was a living, breathing presence in the daily lives of the Aztec people, a reminder that the earth, in all its abundance, was both a gift and a responsibility. Through Centeotl, the Aztecs understood the divine forces that shaped their world, the balance of male and female energies, the interconnectedness of life and death, and the sacredness of the earth itself. Maize was more than just a crop, it was the sustenance that connected them to the gods and to each other. Centeotl was the god who made all things possible, who ensured that life continued to flourish, and who reminded the people of the sacredness of the earth beneath their feet. His dual-gender nature reflected the balance that was needed to ensure that life, like the maize crop, would always grow again. In the lush jungles of the ancient Maya civilization, where the rivers meandered like veins of life and the great stone cities rose against the backdrop of towering trees, there was one goddess who embodied the very essence of life and healing, Ixchel. She was more than just a goddess of the earth, she was a symbol of balance, of the intertwining forces of nature that sustained and nurtured the Maya world. With her deep connection to the moon, fertility, and medicine, Ixchel became the divine figure whose presence was felt in every aspect of life. She was not only a creator and healer but also a powerful force whose influence over life and death was unmistakable. Ixchel was often depicted as an elderly woman, wise and compassionate, with a serene yet powerful presence. As the goddess of fertility, she governed the cycles of reproduction, guiding women through the journey of motherhood. Her role in fertility was central to Maya beliefs, where the cycle of life was seen as an unbroken chain of birth, growth, decay, and rebirth. Women, who carried the future generations, honored Ixchel with rituals and offerings, seeking her blessings for easy childbirth and healthy offspring. Her connection to fertility wasn't confined solely to human reproduction but extended to the land itself. The fertile soil that yielded crops, the abundant harvests, and the vitality of the earth were also under her divine care. But Ixchel was not just a nurturing goddess. Her domain also spanned the mystical realms of medicine and healing. In a world without modern science, the Maya turned to their gods for knowledge and guidance in the art of healing. Ixchel, as the goddess of medicine, was revered as the ultimate source of wisdom in this area. Shamans and healers would often invoke her name, seeking her favor as they prepared remedies and treatments for the sick. She was known to possess the knowledge of plants and herbs, understanding their powers to restore health and alleviate suffering. Her deep connection to the natural world gave her insight into the body's ailments and the cures hidden in the earth, waiting to be uncovered. What set Ixchel apart was her dual connection to the earth and the moon. Her celestial aspect tied her to the rhythms of the moon, a force that governed the tides, the cycles of life, and the passage of time itself. The Maya, who were expert astronomers, understood the moon's power to influence the world below. Ixchel's lunar nature connected her to the ebb and flow of water, to the rivers and lakes that brought nourishment to the land. Water was life, and Ixchel's association with both water and the earth made her a goddess who was deeply attuned to the delicate balance between the two elements. Her moonlit glow illuminated the night sky, guiding the people of the Maya world with its gentle light, while the rains that followed her lunar cycles brought fertility to the crops. The intertwining of earth and water was at the heart of Maya mythology, and Ixchel's role in this mythos was vital. The Maya believed that the world was a place where elements, both physical and spiritual, were always in motion, constantly shifting, creating, and destroying. Water was seen as a powerful force, capable of both life and destruction. The rains could nourish the fields and bring prosperity, but too much water could flood the land and bring ruin. Ixchel, with her deep understanding of both the earth and water, was the goddess who maintained the balance between these two forces. Without her, the delicate harmony between land and water would be disrupted, and the world would fall into chaos. Her presence was also tied to the sacredness of rivers and cenotes, the natural wells and caves that dotted the Maya landscape. These water sources were believed to be portals to the underworld, places where the living could commune with the spirits of the dead. The Maya believed that Ixchel's influence extended into these sacred waters, which were seen as a direct link between the earthly realm and the divine. Water, like the earth, was seen as sacred and powerful. It had the ability to cleanse, to renew, and to bring forth new life. Just as the rain nourished the land, so too did Ixchel's influence cleanse the spirits and bring balance to the Maya world. Ixchel was not only a goddess of fertility and medicine, she also symbolized the cycles of life. The waxing and waning of the moon mirrored the stages of life: youth, maturity, old age, and death. The cycle of the moon was a constant reminder that everything in life was in flux, that nothing remained the same forever. Her lunar phases represented the balance of light and darkness, the interplay of life and death, and the eternal nature of the universe. The Maya saw these cycles as interconnected with their own lives, with the seasons, and with the land they relied on for survival. Just as the moon's phases brought changes to the sky, the cycles of birth, death, and rebirth flowed through the land, the people, and the gods themselves. Ixchel's connection to both the earth and water also made her a goddess of transformation. Water, in all its forms, could take on many shapes. It could be still and calm, as in a river's quiet flow, or it could be powerful and destructive, as in a storm's raging torrents. The earth, too, could be both fertile and barren, capable of producing abundance or leaving the land parched and dry. Ixchel's role was to ensure that these cycles of change occurred in harmony, that the earth was never too dry, nor the waters too much. She was the one who nurtured the soil, brought the rains, and ensured that the world remained in balance. Ixchel's healing abilities were often invoked during difficult times, whether it was illness, drought, or the challenges of childbirth. The Maya saw her as a compassionate deity, one who understood the struggles of the people and offered them guidance and care. Her wisdom was sought when crops failed or when the people were struck by disease, and her blessings were invoked to bring relief from suffering. In these moments, Ixchel was not just a goddess to be worshipped, she was a guide, a protector, and a healer. Her power was seen not in grand acts of destruction or war, but in her ability to nurture, to heal, and to restore balance. Ixchel's connection to the moon, fertility, and water wove a complex and powerful narrative in Maya mythology. Her presence was a constant reminder that life, in all its forms, was a delicate balance of forces. The earth, water, and the divine worked together to sustain the world. As the goddess who bridged the gap between the earth and the heavens, between life and death, Ixchel was both the healer and the nurturer, the protector and the guide. Her legacy in Maya culture is a testament to the importance of balance, the sacredness of nature, and the deep connection the Maya had to the earth, the water, and the rhythms of life. In the earliest verses of the Vedas, where the divine was woven into every aspect of existence and the natural world spoke the language of gods, there emerged a figure who represented the very foundation of life on earth, Prithvi. She was the earth herself, vast, eternal, and nurturing, embodying both the quiet strength and the quiet gentleness that bound all life together. To the ancient Vedic people, Prithvi was not just the land beneath their feet, but a goddess who lived and breathed, a force that was sacred and intertwined with the rhythms of the universe. Prithvi's role as the earth goddess was vast, for she was the embodiment of the material world, the very ground that provided sustenance to all living beings. In a world where life and death were governed by cosmic forces, she stood as the enduring, nurturing mother who gave birth to all things. She was the soil that held the seeds of life, the soil that nourished crops, the soil that cradled the bodies of the ancestors. She was the one who gave life and, in turn, received it when death came to claim it. Her essence was the pulse of the earth itself, the silent hum beneath the feet of all living beings. In the Vedic hymns, Prithvi was often praised for her abundance and fertility. She was revered as a goddess who brought forth the harvests, made the rivers flow with water, and ensured that all creatures could find nourishment in her embrace. Her fertility was not just physical, it was spiritual. She was seen as the source of all creation, the foundational power that allowed life to flourish. Her connection to the land was sacred, for the land was seen as a direct reflection of her vitality. Without Prithvi, there would be no crops, no sustenance, no life at all. Yet, Prithvi was not only a goddess of abundance and nourishment. She was also a goddess of balance. In the Vedic cosmology, she stood as the steady anchor in a world that was constantly shifting and changing. The cycles of nature, the rise and fall of civilizations, the flow of rivers, the growth of forests, Prithvi was both the giver of life and the keeper of its delicate equilibrium. The people of the Vedic world believed that Prithvi's balance was what ensured the continuity of the natural order. Her essence held the cosmos together, linking the heavens and the earth, binding the living to the dead, and weaving the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth into a seamless, eternal loop. But Prithvi was not just a passive, silent force. She was an active participant in the world's creation and maintenance. In the hymns, she is often described as the one who supported the universe, whose expansive body stretched across the heavens and the earth. The Vedic people understood that without Prithvi's nurturing embrace, life would not have been possible. She was the constant, the anchor, in the ever-changing dance of creation. And yet, she was also a dynamic force, capable of transformation. Her very body, the earth, could be both fertile and barren, lush with growth or parched by drought. The people recognized that the earth was a living being, with moods and rhythms of its own. Her influence extended beyond the land and the harvests. As the goddess of earth, Prithvi was also considered a protector. In Vedic hymns, she is invoked for her strength, her ability to shield and safeguard. She was the one who protected the people from natural disasters, who held the floods back, and who kept the storms at bay. Her immense form provided a sanctuary, a safe place for all living beings to exist. And when death came, she took in the bodies of the deceased, returning them to her nurturing soil, where they would become one with the land once again. In the sacred marriage between Prithvi and the sky god Dyaus, one could see the union of the masculine and feminine principles that permeated the world. This cosmic pairing, described in the Vedic texts, represented the joining of the earth and the heavens, the blending of the material and the spiritual, the seen and the unseen. Together, Prithvi and Dyaus gave birth to the universe. Their union embodied the very forces that drove the cosmos, and through them, all life was born and sustained. This divine partnership was more than a mere allegory, it was the foundation of Vedic thought, representing the sacred relationship between the earth and the heavens, between humans and the divine. Yet, despite her great power, Prithvi was also gentle. She was compassionate, patient, and forgiving. In the rituals and prayers dedicated to her, the Vedic people expressed deep gratitude for the blessings she provided, seeking her favor and her protection. The earth was seen as a living, breathing entity, whose responses were a reflection of human actions. If the people honored Prithvi through reverence and care for the land, she would bless them with fertile crops and abundant harvests. If they mistreated the land, if they failed to uphold the balance of nature, she would respond with droughts, floods, and famine, a reminder that the earth and its blessings were not to be taken for granted. Prithvi's connection to the cycles of life was not only reflected in her role as a nurturing mother, but also in the rites of passage. Just as she gave birth to the living, she also received the dead into her embrace. In death, as in life, Prithvi's role was that of a mother. She welcomed the departed back into her soil, where their physical forms would return to nourish the earth, allowing the cycle of life to continue. This was a powerful reminder to the Vedic people of their ultimate connection to the land, a bond that transcended life itself. The worship of Prithvi was not confined to grand temples or sacred spaces. It was present in every part of the Vedic world. From the simple act of offering thanks for a bountiful harvest to the grand rituals performed by the priests, the goddess was invoked in every aspect of life. The people recognized that their very survival depended on their relationship with Prithvi, and so they honored her through their work, their prayers, and their respect for the earth. The Vedic people understood that Prithvi's power was not just a force of nature, but a reflection of their own existence. To care for the earth was to care for themselves, to honor the balance of the world was to honor their place in it. Prithvi was the great mother, the source of all life, and her teachings were simple: life was a cycle, and every end was a beginning. Just as the earth gave birth to new life, it would also receive the old, returning them to the soil, to continue the cycle. The people saw themselves as stewards of this earth, caretakers of Prithvi's sacred land, knowing that without her, there could be no life. In the grand expanse of the universe, where gods and goddesses dance across the heavens and the earth hums with the pulse of life, there exists a goddess who represents the very ground beneath our feet, the earth that sustains, nurtures, and protects us. Bhumi Devi, the Hindu earth goddess, is the embodiment of Mother Earth in all her forms. She is not just the land we walk upon, but a divine force that carries the weight of the world, bearing life, death, and rebirth in her embrace. To the people of ancient India, Bhumi Devi was both a symbol of life's beauty and fragility, as well as a reminder of the deep, sacred relationship humans share with the earth. In the rich tapestry of Hindu mythology, Bhumi Devi is often depicted as a beautiful woman, adorned with flowers and symbols of fertility, her body a reflection of the vibrant landscape. Her eyes sparkle with compassion and care, while her gentle smile promises safety and protection. As the earth, she is the eternal nurturer, giving birth to all living beings and ensuring their survival by providing food, water, and shelter. Everything we know, everything we touch, is born from her, and in turn, everything returns to her when its time has come. Bhumi Devi's role in Hinduism is deeply intertwined with the concept of dharma, the natural law or moral order that governs the universe. Just as the earth provides the foundation for life, so too does Bhumi Devi represent the foundation of dharma. She sustains life in all its forms, from the smallest seed to the greatest mountain, from the smallest insect to the grandest of animals. She is a reminder that the earth's bounty is not given lightly, but is a precious gift that must be cherished, respected, and cared for. In Hindu thought, the earth is sacred, and Bhumi Devi's protection of it is a reflection of her divine nature. Her role as a fertility goddess is of paramount importance in Hinduism, as the earth itself is seen as the ultimate source of life. Every harvest, every tree that bears fruit, every animal that grazes upon the land, owes its existence to Bhumi Devi's nurturing. The soil, the rivers, the mountains, all these are her body, and from them flows the sustenance that allows life to thrive. Without her, there would be no crops to harvest, no fruits to eat, and no shelter from the storms. In this way, she is deeply tied to the very survival of humanity, as the provider of food, water, and shelter. In ancient Vedic hymns and texts, Bhumi Devi is often invoked in rituals, prayers, and sacrifices as a protector of the land. In times of drought, famine, or disaster, the people would turn to her for aid, seeking her blessings to restore balance to the earth. The earth's cycles of seasons, the growth of crops, the health of the land, all of these were seen as manifestations of Bhumi Devi's divine will. When the land was fertile and the crops abundant, she was honored and praised. When the land was barren and the crops failed, she was implored for mercy and intervention. Yet, Bhumi Devi is not just a passive giver. She is also a force of justice and retribution, capable of punishing those who violate the natural order. In Hindu mythology, the earth is seen as both a nurturing mother and a fierce protector. When humans engage in acts of greed, exploitation, and harm to the environment, Bhumi Devi's wrath is not far behind. She is known to take the form of earthquakes, floods, and other natural disasters, as if to remind humanity of its responsibility to care for the world around it. Her anger is not vindictive, but is a natural consequence of the imbalance caused by human actions. Just as a mother would chastise her children for misbehavior, Bhumi Devi's punishments are meant to restore harmony and ensure the survival of life. One of the most iconic moments in Hindu mythology involving Bhumi Devi comes from the story of her rescue by Lord Vishnu, an episode that showcases both her vulnerability and her strength. In the tale, the demon king Hiranyaksha, in his arrogance, drags the earth to the bottom of the cosmic ocean, plunging the world into darkness and chaos. The gods, desperate and unable to retrieve the earth, turn to Vishnu, who incarnates as a giant boar, Varaha, to rescue her. With immense strength and determination, Varaha battles the demon and lifts Bhumi Devi from the depths of the ocean, restoring her to her rightful place in the universe. This story not only illustrates the importance of Bhumi Devi but also highlights her sacred role as the keeper of life. Vishnu's act of saving the earth underscores the idea that the earth is sacred and must be protected from the forces that seek to destroy it. Bhumi Devi's restoration is a symbol of hope and renewal, a reminder that life, no matter how dark or damaged, can always be revived through divine intervention and the balance of cosmic forces. Bhumi Devi's connection to fertility and nature is also reflected in the agricultural practices and rituals of ancient India. The earth was seen as a divine partner in the cultivation of crops. Farmers, who relied on the earth for their livelihoods, would often perform rituals and make offerings to Bhumi Devi before sowing their seeds. It was believed that by honoring her and seeking her blessings, the crops would grow strong and bountiful. The earth was treated with reverence, and the land was seen as a sacred partner in the process of creation. In many temples dedicated to Bhumi Devi, rituals often involve offerings of grains, fruits, and flowers, symbols of the earth's fertility. These rituals serve as a reminder that the earth's bounty is not to be taken for granted, but must be respected and revered. Bhumi Devi's role in these practices highlights the deep interconnection between the divine and the natural world. Her blessings were seen as essential to the well-being of the people, and her protection was considered the highest form of divine grace. Bhumi Devi is not just an abstract concept in Hinduism, she is a living, breathing entity who interacts with humanity on a personal level. Her teachings are clear: the earth is sacred, life is sacred, and every action taken by humans affects the world around them. She is a symbol of the eternal, nurturing mother, whose love for her children is infinite, and whose patience has no bounds. Yet, she is also a reminder of the consequences of neglecting her care, of failing to honor the balance of nature. Bhumi Devi's role as the earth goddess speaks to the Hindu understanding of the interconnectedness of all life, human, animal, plant, and divine, and her story is a timeless reminder that our survival is linked to the health of the earth itself. In the vast tapestry of ancient Chinese mythology and history, there stands a figure so profound, so influential, that his legacy transcends the boundaries of time: Huangdi, the Yellow Emperor. Known as the mythical ancestor of the Chinese people, he is not only revered as a sovereign ruler, but also as a god deeply connected to the earth, embodying the very essence of the land he governed. His reign was seen as a golden age, a time of harmony between humans and nature, a time when the balance of heaven and earth was maintained through his wisdom and guidance. Huangdi's association with the earth is deeply rooted in the concept of the mandate of heaven, a divine right to rule that links the emperor directly to the cosmic forces of nature. He was not merely a ruler in the traditional sense, but a cosmic force who maintained the delicate balance between the heavens, the earth, and the people. In this sense, Huangdi was not just a human leader, he was an earth god, a divine protector of the land. His role was to ensure that the natural world was in harmony with human civilization, and that the cycles of nature were respected and upheld. The earth, in ancient Chinese philosophy, was seen as a living, breathing entity, one that required care, reverence, and understanding. It was believed that when the emperor ruled justly, in accordance with the natural laws, the land would flourish. The crops would grow tall and strong, the rivers would flow with abundance, and the people would thrive. But if the emperor faltered, if he ignored the balance of nature, the earth would react. There would be droughts, floods, famine, and pestilence. This profound connection between the ruler and the earth was at the heart of Huangdi's divine mandate. One of the most striking aspects of Huangdi's role as an earth god is his connection to agriculture, the very lifeblood of Chinese civilization. According to legend, it was Huangdi who introduced the cultivation of the 5 grains, rice, wheat, barley, millet, and soybeans, thus ensuring the sustenance of his people. His contributions to farming were not simply technological, they were spiritual as well. The Yellow Emperor, as the embodiment of the earth, was seen as the one who brought the land to life, ensuring that it yielded bountiful harvests for the people. He was not just the ruler of men, but also the protector of the land, ensuring that it flourished and remained fertile. In addition to his agricultural reforms, Huangdi is also associated with the development of medicine, another area deeply connected to the earth. The famous Huangdi Neijing, or the Yellow Emperor's Classic of Medicine, is a foundational text in Chinese medical philosophy, emphasizing the importance of harmony between humans and the natural world. The text is based on the belief that the body is a microcosm of the universe, and that health is achieved when the individual is in harmony with the forces of nature. This belief aligns with Huangdi's divine role as an earth god, for just as the emperor ensured the harmony of the land, he also sought to ensure the harmony of the human body with the earth's cycles. The Yellow Emperor was also intimately linked to the spiritual and cosmic realms. In the grand narrative of Chinese mythology, he is often depicted as a ruler who achieved immortality, ascending to the heavens after his death. His transformation into a celestial being further solidified his divine status. He was no longer just a mortal ruler, but a god who existed beyond time and space, embodying the eternal forces of the earth itself. In this way, Huangdi was seen as a bridge between heaven and earth, a figure who ensured that the natural world remained in balance and that the divine will was carried out through the actions of human beings. The stories of Huangdi's reign are filled with symbolic acts that underscore his role as an earth god. One of the most famous tales involves his victory over the tribal leader Qi Yu, a fierce warrior who represented chaos and disorder. Qiu's forces brought destruction and imbalance to the earth, and it was Huangdi's triumph that restored order to the natural world. This victory is symbolic of the emperor's role as a divine force of stability, ensuring that the forces of nature and the people who depend on them were always kept in harmony. Huangdi's connection to the earth was not merely symbolic, it was practical, deeply rooted in the daily lives of the people. The Yellow Emperor is often credited with establishing the foundation of Chinese civilization, creating systems of governance, education, and agriculture that allowed society to thrive. His wisdom was seen as a reflection of his divine nature, for he understood the deep connection between humanity and the land. Just as a farmer must tend to his crops with patience and care, so too must the ruler tend to the people, ensuring their well-being by maintaining the health of the land. Yet, Huangdi's reign was not only marked by prosperity. The people understood that their survival was always at the mercy of the land, and that the emperor's ability to rule justly was directly tied to the balance of nature. If the emperor became corrupt or negligent, the earth would retaliate, bringing hardship and suffering to the people. This understanding created a profound sense of responsibility in the emperor, as he was not just a ruler of men, but a divine caretaker of the earth itself. His actions were a reflection of the cosmic order, and his ability to maintain that order was what allowed civilization to thrive. Huangdi's status as an earth god is further reflected in the rituals and ceremonies associated with his memory. In many of the ancient texts, it is said that the emperor would conduct rituals to honor the earth and ensure the prosperity of the land. These rituals often involved offerings to the earth, prayers for good harvests, and requests for protection from natural disasters. In this way, Huangdi's reign was a constant reaffirmation of the connection between the divine, the earth, and the people. The emperor, as an earth god, was seen as the guarantor of balance, ensuring that the land would remain fertile and the people would remain prosperous. The reverence for Huangdi, as an earth god, is still evident today in many aspects of Chinese culture. The worship of the Yellow Emperor continues, with numerous temples and shrines dedicated to his memory. His legacy as a divine ruler who embodied the earth and its natural cycles remains a powerful symbol of the harmony between humanity and nature. The earth is not merely a backdrop to human life, but an active participant in the story of existence, and Huangdi stands as a timeless reminder of that sacred relationship. In the mythic world of Huangdi, the earth was not just something to be ruled or exploited, but something to be respected and nurtured. His reign was a reflection of the delicate balance that sustains life, and his role as an earth god serves as a profound reminder of humanity's place within the larger cosmic order. Through his wisdom and care, Huangdi ensured that the earth remained fertile and abundant, a divine force that continues to guide the people of China and the world to this day. In the quiet hills of ancient Japan, where the earth's lush greenery dances in the wind and the mountains loom as silent sentinels, there is a deity whose presence quietly guides the cycles of growth and harvest. Kabiko, the Japanese god of agriculture, is a figure whose essence lies in the pulse of the soil, in the rhythm of planting and reaping, and in the spiritual connection between the land and the people. Though his name is lesser known to those outside Japan, Kabiko is a revered figure among those who understand the intimate bond between humanity and nature, a bond that has sustained civilizations for millennia. Kabiko is often depicted as a figure bound to the earth, a god who cannot move but whose mind and heart are vast as the fields he watches over. His immobility is symbolic, for he is a god of insight and wisdom, his knowledge of agriculture and the cycles of life all-encompassing. His legs are bound, perhaps reflecting the grounding force of the earth, but his mind soars across the landscapes, seeing every seed sown, every crop that flourishes, and every harvest that takes place. In this way, Kabiko embodies the quiet watchfulness that characterizes the natural world, a world that moves in its own time, indifferent to human desires but nonetheless providing the means for survival. The story of Kabiko is one deeply entwined with Japan's agricultural history. In ancient times, the Japanese people, particularly in rural communities, relied on the land for their sustenance. The rice fields, which were the backbone of the economy, demanded respect, patience, and reverence. Kabiko, as a deity, represented these very qualities. He was the silent protector of farmers, a god who helped them understand the land, its rhythms, and the delicate balance required to maintain prosperity. Kabiko's wisdom was not found in grand speeches or forceful interventions. Rather, it was in the subtle understanding of the earth's cycles and the respectful stewardship of the land. Like a wise elder, he taught the farmers to observe the seasons, to understand when to plant, when to water, and when to harvest. The farmers, in turn, paid homage to Kabiko by offering prayers, making offerings of their first fruits, and seeking his guidance to ensure a bountiful harvest. In a world where survival was tied to the land, Kabiko's blessing was vital. Though Kabiko is often described as a god with limited movement, his ability to see all and understand the land deeply gives him an almost omniscient presence. His knowledge of agriculture was believed to be so profound that it extended beyond simple planting and harvesting. He understood the earth's moods, the way it responded to the changing seasons, the effects of weather on crops, and the unseen forces that could either nourish or destroy. In this way, Kabiko was more than a god of agriculture. He was the divine embodiment of patience, wisdom, and the quiet power that lay beneath the surface of the world. The role of agriculture in Japanese society was central not only to daily life but also to spiritual practices. Farming wasn't merely a means of survival, it was seen as a sacred duty, an offering to the gods themselves. To farm the land was to honor the earth and the gods that watched over it. Kabiko's influence was felt in every grain of rice that sprouted from the soil, in every vegetable that grew in the fields, and in every harvest that promised another year of life. The earth was not simply an object to be used, it was a living, breathing partner in the cycle of life, and Kabiko's role was to ensure that this partnership was honored and respected. The idea of a deity who cannot move but watches over all may seem contradictory to the modern mind, but in the context of Kabiko's nature, it makes perfect sense. The immobility of Kabiko is symbolic of the stability of the earth itself, a force that endures regardless of the seasons or the actions of humans. While the farmers may toil in the fields, planting and harvesting, Kabiko is ever present, silently guiding and watching over them. His stillness reflects the eternal presence of nature, which remains constant even as human lives and civilizations rise and fall. In the rural heart of Japan, Kabiko's story was told and retold with reverence. Farmers and villagers would gather at shrines dedicated to him, offering prayers for a good harvest, for protection from drought or pestilence, and for the safety of their families. In a world where famine and crop failure could spell disaster, Kabiko was seen as both a protector and a guide. His wisdom, passed down through generations, was vital to the survival of the people. In many ways, he was the spiritual foundation of rural life in ancient Japan. The symbolism of Kabiko as a deity tied to agriculture also speaks to a deeper understanding of the human relationship with the land. In ancient Japan, there was a recognition that humanity's survival depended not only on hard work but on a profound respect for nature's cycles. Farmers did not see themselves as masters of the land, but as caretakers, working in partnership with the earth. This attitude of reverence was embodied by Kabiko, whose wisdom taught that true success came not from force or dominance, but from understanding and harmony with nature. As time passed and Japan's urban centers grew, the direct connection between the people and the land began to fade. Yet, the legacy of Kabiko's teachings endures, especially in Japan's continued reverence for the land and its agricultural traditions. Even today, the rhythm of the seasons is celebrated, and agricultural festivals continue to honor the gods who watch over the earth. Kabiko, as a deity, remains a symbol of this sacred relationship between humanity and the land. In the quiet corners of Japanese mythology, Kabiko stands as a reminder that agriculture is not merely a practical endeavor, but a spiritual one, a dance with the earth itself. His stillness is not a limitation, but a testament to the profound connection between all living things. In his wisdom, Kabiko teaches that the earth is not something to be conquered, but something to be understood, respected, and nurtured. Through his watchful gaze, the cycles of life continue, and the harvests of tomorrow are ensured. The farmers may toil in the fields, but Kabiko, the god of agriculture, is always with them, guiding them with the timeless wisdom of the earth itself. In the verdant hills and sprawling plains of New Zealand, where the land seems to hum with a life all its own, there exists a mother figure so intertwined with the earth that her name is whispered with reverence in every wind and every passing cloud. Papachūānuku, the Earth Mother, is the beating heart of Maori mythology, embodying the very essence of the land, the mountains, and the seas. Her spirit is alive in the soil beneath our feet, in the forests that blanket the mountains, and in the rivers that snake across the land. To the Maori, Papachūānuku is not a distant deity to be worshipped from afar. She is the very land they walk upon, the foundation of all life, the nurturing force that sustains their existence. Her story begins with the creation of the world itself. In the Maori creation myth, Papachūānuku was once entwined in an intimate embrace with her partner, Ranginui, the Sky Father. Together, they existed in a tight, suffocating darkness, with no space between them. Their children, the gods of the Maori pantheon, were trapped in this closeness, unable to see the world or fulfill their destinies. Desperate to bring light and life to the world, their children devised a plan to separate their parents. It was the force of their will and strength that tore Ranginui away from Papachūānuku, casting him into the sky and allowing the land to breathe, to stretch, and to flourish in the space between them. As Ranginui gazed down from the heavens, Papachūānuku remained below, her body the very earth itself. Her love for her partner never faded, and the separation caused her great pain. Yet, from that pain came life. Her tears became rivers, her body formed mountains, and her breath stirred the winds. Papachūānuku gave life to the land, to the forests and fields, to the creatures that walked upon her soil. She is, in essence, the living embodiment of the earth, a mother whose love and strength know no bounds, whose presence sustains all that exists. For the Maori people, Papachūānuku is not simply a goddess, but a direct ancestor, the source of all things. She is the womb from which all life sprang, and her connection to the people is not one of distant reverence but of intimate kinship. The Maori view themselves as children of the earth, and their spiritual connection to Papachūānuku runs deep. She is their mother, their protector, their sustainer. The land, with all its rich resources, is not something to be taken for granted, but something to be honored, cherished, and nurtured, just as a child would honor and cherish a mother. To care for the land is to honor Papachūānuku herself. The bond between the people and Papachūānuku is woven into the very fabric of Maori life. In every season, in every ritual, the Earth Mother's presence is acknowledged and revered. When crops are planted, it is not only the labor of the hands that ensures their growth, but the blessing of Papachūānuku. The earth must be treated with respect, for it is the very source of nourishment and life. Before embarking on any endeavor, whether it be hunting, fishing, or farming, the Maori people would offer prayers and rituals to Papachūānuku, asking for her blessings and protection. She is the one who ensures that the land is fertile, that the rivers flow abundantly, and that the seasons turn in harmony. One of the most powerful symbols of Papachūānuku's life-giving force is her connection to the cycle of death and rebirth. For the Maori, the earth is not just a place to live, it is a place where the spirits of ancestors are honored and where life is ever renewed. When a person dies, their body is returned to the earth, where it becomes part of the land once again. The soil absorbs the body, and from it, new life grows. This cycle of life, death, and rebirth is a reflection of Papachūānuku's own existence. Just as she gave birth to the mountains, the rivers, and the forests, she also absorbs the dead, nourishing the earth and ensuring that life continues. In this way, the Maori understand that they are part of an eternal cycle, a cycle governed by the Earth Mother herself. The forests, the rivers, and the seas are all sacred to Papachūānuku. The trees are not merely plants that provide shade or wood, they are the homes of spirits, the guardians of the land. The rivers are not just flowing bodies of water, they are the veins through which Papachūānuku's life force flows, bringing sustenance to all who drink from them. The seas are her arms, outstretched and welcoming, providing food and resources to those who live in harmony with the land. Everything in the natural world has a purpose, a sacred role to play in the vast web of life that Papachūānuku sustains. The Maori people also believe that the land is imbued with spiritual power, a power that is channeled through the Earth Mother. Sacred sites across New Zealand are marked by places where the energy of Papachūānuku is particularly strong. These sites are often places of deep spiritual significance, where ceremonies are held, and where people come to connect with the earth on a more profound level. The power of Papachūānuku flows through these sites, imbuing them with a sacredness that cannot be replicated. To step onto this land is to step onto the body of the Earth Mother herself, to honor her, and to be reminded of the deep connection that exists between all living things. Papachūānuku's love and protection are not limited to humans alone. She is the mother of all living creatures, from the tiniest insect to the mightiest whale. The birds that fly through the sky, the fish that swim in the ocean, and the animals that roam the forests are all her children. Her nurturing presence extends to every living being, ensuring that all creatures have what they need to survive and thrive. The Maori view themselves as stewards of this world, entrusted by Papachūānuku to care for the land, to protect the creatures, and to ensure that the balance of nature is maintained. As the years pass and the modern world encroaches upon the sacred lands of New Zealand, the teachings of Papachūānuku remain ever relevant. The earth continues to be a source of life, a source of spiritual power, and a source of deep connection for the Maori people. In an age where the natural world is often seen as something to be exploited, the reverence for Papachūānuku serves as a reminder of the importance of living in harmony with the earth. To honor the land is to honor the mother who sustains us all. The story of Papachūānuku, the Earth Mother, is not just a myth, it is a living truth, a truth that calls upon all who walk upon the land to remember the sacred bond that connects us to the earth and to one another. In the quiet moments, when the wind rustles through the trees and the mountains rise majestically in the distance, the voice of Papachūānuku can still be heard, calling her children back to the earth. She is always present, ever patient, ever nurturing, and ever watching over her land. The heartbeat of New Zealand is the heartbeat of Papua, and as long as the land endures, so too will her spirit. In the molten depths beneath the surface of the earth, where fire and fury converge to shape the very land itself, there resides a powerful force, Pele, the Hawaiian goddess of volcanoes. Her name echoes through the ages, carried on the winds of her fiery breath, whispered by the waves that crash upon the shores, and felt in the tremors that shake the ground beneath. Pele is not just a deity of destruction, but a creator. Her volcanic eruptions give birth to new land, reshape the world, and remind humanity of the raw, untamable forces that lie beneath the surface of the earth. The story of Pele is one of passion, power, and relentless determination. Born from the union of the earth and the sky, she is a goddess who embodies the volatile energy of fire. Her spirit is as fierce as the lava that erupts from the heart of the volcano, and her presence is felt in the rumbling earth, the bursts of molten rock, and the fierce heat that emanates from the depths of the world. To the ancient Hawaiians, Pele was both revered and feared, for her wrath could level entire landscapes in an instant, but her power was also necessary for the very creation of the islands they called home. Pele's story is deeply intertwined with the Hawaiian landscape itself. It is said that she resides in the volcanoes of the Big Island of Hawaii, where she reigns over the fiery forces that shape the land. Kilauea, the most active volcano on the island, is considered her home, a place where her spirit lives and breathes in the constant flow of lava. To the Hawaiian people, Pele's presence is never far. She is both the destructive force that tears through the land and the creator who gives birth to new landscapes. Her volcanic eruptions are not seen as mere disasters, but as expressions of her divine will, a reminder of the Earth's cyclical nature and its power to both destroy and renew. Pele's mythology is as complex as the land she governs. She is often depicted as a fiery, passionate woman, full of strength and determination, yet also deeply emotional and temperamental. Her fiery temper is legendary, and many of her stories involve her fiery clashes with other gods, particularly her sibling, the goddess Hyaka, who was known for her calm demeanor and healing powers. Pele's passion and rage were often triggered by betrayal or perceived injustice, and she would unleash her fury upon the land, causing eruptions and fires that would scorch the earth in an instant. Yet, beneath this fierce exterior, there was also a deep longing for love and acceptance, as Pele's story is also one of longing, loss, and the pursuit of companionship. In one of the most famous legends, Pele falls in love with a mortal man, Lohiau, who is said to have been the love of her life. In an effort to win his heart, she sends her sister Hyaka to fetch him, but the journey is fraught with challenges, and Hyaka is forced to travel through dangerous terrain, including Pele's own fiery volcanic realm. When Hyaka finally returns with Lohiau, Pele's rage erupts once again, jealousy and betrayal cloud her heart, and she unleashes the full force of her volcanic power. In this moment, Pele's dual nature is revealed, the goddess of creation and destruction, a being who could both create and annihilate in the same breath. Despite her temper, Pele is also a figure of immense power and creativity. Her volcanic eruptions are not merely acts of chaos, but acts of creation. Through the lava that flows from her volcanoes, new land is born, fertile soil is formed, ready to support new life. The islands of Hawaii themselves are a testament to Pele's power, each eruption adding to the landmass, reshaping the coastline, and forging the very land that the Hawaiian people call home. Pele's power is not just destructive, it is also generative, providing the foundation for life to grow and thrive. Pele's connection to the land is undeniable. The Hawaiian people, who lived in close harmony with nature, recognized the importance of the volcanoes and the volcanic activity that shaped their world. Pele was both a protector and a creator, and her eruptions were seen as part of the natural cycle of life, death, and rebirth. The land was not a static entity but a living, breathing force, constantly evolving and changing in response to the energies that flowed through it. The lava that flowed from Pele's volcanoes was not only a sign of her power, but also a sign of the Earth's vitality, an Earth that was never truly still, but always in motion. The people of Hawaii have long respected Pele, offering prayers and gifts in hopes of gaining her favor. When a volcanic eruption occurs, the Hawaiians believe it is Pele making her presence known, and they offer offerings of food, flowers, and chants in gratitude for her power. Even in times of destruction, there is an understanding that Pele's actions are not arbitrary but are part of the Earth's natural processes. She is not a vengeful goddess, but one who reflects the unpredictable nature of life itself, at once beautiful, terrifying, and awe-inspiring. Pele's presence is not confined to just the volcanic eruptions of the islands. She is also deeply connected to the Hawaiian people's spiritual practices. Her stories are passed down through generations, told in chants, songs, and hula dances. Her spirit is honored in rituals and ceremonies, where people come together to honor the goddess of fire, asking for her blessings and guidance. Pele's spirit is ever present in the landscape, in the flowing lava, in the winds that whip through the valleys, and in the steady pulse of the earth beneath their feet. Even as the world changes and modernity encroaches upon the traditional ways of life, Pele remains a powerful and enduring symbol in Hawaiian culture. She is the embodiment of the primal forces that continue to shape the land, and her influence is still felt in the eruptions that occasionally shake the islands. Pele is a reminder that the earth is not something that can be controlled or tamed. It is a living force, capable of both great destruction and immense creation, and we, as mere mortals, are but visitors on this ever-changing, ever-evolving planet. In the quiet moments, when the sun sets behind the mountains and the earth trembles beneath the feet, the presence of Pele is felt. She is the heat in the ground, the fire in the sky, the breath of the volcano that gives life to the land. Her love and rage are felt in every eruption and every burst of molten lava that streaks across the sky. Pele is the goddess of fire, the goddess of the earth, and the heart of the Hawaiian Islands themselves. Deep beneath the cold, endless expanse of the Arctic Ocean, where the icebergs shimmer in the pale light of the northern sun, there lives a goddess whose power is both terrifying and life-giving. Sidna, the Inuit goddess of the sea and earth, is the very embodiment of the ocean's vast mystery, its deep, unfathomable currents, and its ability to both nourish and destroy. She is a being of great beauty, but also of great sorrow, her existence marked by a tragedy that is as ancient as the world itself. Sidna's story is one of loss, of abandonment, and of a transformation into a being whose power over the sea makes her one of the most revered, yet feared, deities in Inuit mythology. Her tale begins with a simple, yet tragic love story. Sidna was once a young, beautiful woman, living with her father in a world where survival depended on the harsh, unforgiving rhythms of nature. One day, a mysterious suitor, a man who appeared to be a dog or a sea creature, came to Sidna, offering her love and marriage. Against her father's wishes, Sidna agreed to marry him, drawn to the promise of a new life. But when they sailed away, Sidna quickly discovered the truth: the man was not a human, but a monster from the deep sea, a creature of the water who would imprison her in a world of darkness and cold. Sidna's life with the sea creature was a nightmare, and she soon realized that she was trapped, far from the warmth of the land, far from the safety of her father's arms. In desperation, Sidna's father came to rescue her. But upon reaching her, he was horrified by the monstrous creature she had married. In a panic and in fear for his life, Sidna's father pushed her overboard, abandoning her to the mercy of the ocean. As Sidna plunged into the frigid waters, her body was torn and disfigured by the waves. Her fingers were severed, one by one, as she sank deeper into the ocean's depths. The severed fingers became the creatures of the sea: seals, whales, walruses, and other marine life, creatures that would later become central to the survival of the Inuit people. Sidna, now a half-human, half-sea goddess, became the ruler of the underwater world, her body transformed by the waters that swallowed her. From that moment on, Sidna became a being of immense power. Her body, now part sea and part human, was the living embodiment of the sea's dual nature, beautiful yet deadly, nourishing yet dangerous. She ruled over the creatures of the sea with an iron fist, and her temper could summon storms that would sink ships and destroy entire villages. Her sorrow, too, was tied to the sea, for she had been abandoned by her father, betrayed by the one she had once loved. But Sidna was also a goddess of compassion and protection. She held dominion over the waters, and it was her mercy that could bring abundance to the Inuit people, for she controlled the sea's bounty. Without her favor, the hunters would return empty-handed, their spears untouched by seals and whales. Sedna's power was not only confined to the ocean's depths. The Inuit believed that she also governed the land, for it was her anger that could cause the earth to freeze over, making hunting and survival near impossible. The power she held over both the sea and the earth made her a figure of immense importance in the Inuit worldview. She was both a provider and a punisher, a goddess whose mood could shift with the tides, her favor as fleeting as the currents themselves. Sedna's story was passed down from generation to generation, her presence felt in every wave that lapped at the shore, and every storm that swept across the ice-covered tundra. To the Inuit, Sedna was both a protector and a reminder of the fragility of life. They believed that their survival depended on their relationship with her, and it was said that rituals and offerings were made to Sedna in order to gain her favor. In particular, the Inuit would perform ceremonies to calm her restless spirit and appease her anger. The rituals often involved the offering of sacrifices, such as the placing of food, tools, or small carved figures, in the sea or on the ice. These offerings were meant to show respect for Sedna and to ask for her mercy, so that the hunt could be plentiful and the sea's creatures would remain bountiful. Sedna's power over the sea was not only a force of nature, but also a spiritual force that governed the very rhythms of the world. The Inuit saw the ocean as a vast, interconnected system of life, where everything, every creature, every wave, every storm, was part of a greater whole. The sea, with all its life forms and hidden dangers, was both a source of nourishment and a reminder of the fragile balance between the earth and the water. Sedna's presence reminded them of the constant tension between survival and destruction, between life and death. The sea could provide food and sustenance, but it could also take it all away in the blink of an eye, sweeping away those who were unprepared or ungrateful. In some versions of the myth, Sedna is depicted as a goddess who offers wisdom, guiding the Inuit people through the harsh, unforgiving landscape. Her connection to the earth and the sea is not just one of destruction, but one of deep knowledge, understanding the world's natural forces better than anyone else. She teaches the Inuit how to live in harmony with the land and the ocean, how to respect the animals they hunted and the waters they sailed upon. To anger Sedna was to risk starvation, but to honor her was to ensure survival. The relationship between the Inuit and the goddess of the sea was one of deep reverence, one that balanced respect with fear and gratitude with caution. Sedna's sorrowful existence in the sea is a reflection of the harshness of the world she inhabits. She is a goddess born of both love and betrayal, of creation and destruction, a figure whose strength is forged in the deepest, most unforgiving corners of the earth and ocean. Her story is one of both pain and power, of transformation and sacrifice. She is both the giver of life and the bringer of death, a goddess whose temper can change with the tides, whose favor can turn with the seasons. To the Inuit, Sedna is not just a myth, she is a living force, as real and as powerful as the ocean itself, ever present in the waves, the winds, and the ice that shape their world. In the shadow of the towering mountains of Hokkaido, where the forests seem to stretch endlessly into the horizon, there exists a goddess whose very essence is tied to the hearth and the earth. Kamui Fuchi, the Ainu fire-earth goddess, is a figure whose warmth and power permeate both the natural world and the spiritual lives of the Ainu people. She is the protector of the home, the keeper of the flame that keeps families warm, the source of sustenance, and the embodiment of the sacred connection between the land and its people. Kamui Fuchi is often portrayed as an elderly woman, embodying both wisdom and maternal care. In the Ainu worldview, the gods, known as Kamui, are not distant, powerful beings to be feared from afar, but intimate forces that shape every aspect of life. Kamui Fuchi, as the goddess of the hearth and fire, represents not just the warmth and protection of the family, but also the sanctity of the earth itself. She is the goddess who watches over the home and ensures that the fire burns brightly, the flame that represents both life and sustenance. To the Ainu, the hearth is sacred, and Kamui Fuchi's presence within it is felt in every flicker of the fire, and every warmth that radiates from it, and in the nurturing energy she imparts to the family and the land. But Kamui Fuchi's role is not confined only to the domestic sphere. She is also a goddess of the earth, whose influence extends beyond the walls of the home. She is said to govern the natural world, from the forests to the rivers, from the mountains to the fields. The Ainu people view the earth as a living entity, a sacred being to be respected and cared for. Kamui Fuchi is the spirit of the earth's fertility, the one who ensures that the land remains abundant and that crops grow strong. She is the goddess who nourishes the earth with fire, keeping it alive, thriving, and ready to provide for the people who depend on it. Her domain is the heart of the earth, where life begins and sustains itself. The Ainu people believe that all things in nature are imbued with spirit, and that the land is alive with the presence of the gods. Kamui Fuchi's influence is felt in the fertile soil that allows crops to grow, in the fire that warms the home, and in the land that nourishes the people. To honor Kamui Fuchi is to honor the sacred balance of nature itself, recognizing the interconnectedness of all things, the earth, the fire, the family, and the people who live upon it. Kamui Fuchi's relationship with the Ainu people is one of deep reverence and respect. She is seen as a maternal figure, providing for the needs of the people and offering her protection and guidance. The Ainu believe that their fires are a direct connection to Kamui Fuchi, and it is through these fires that they can communicate with the goddess. Every time they light a fire, whether it is for cooking or for warmth, they are inviting her into their homes, acknowledging her presence, and offering their gratitude for the sustenance she provides. The act of lighting a fire is not just a practical necessity, it is a spiritual act that connects them to the goddess herself, reminding them of their deep bond with the earth and the forces that sustain them. Kamui Fuchi's role in Ainu life is also marked by rituals and ceremonies. The Ainu people perform sacred rituals to honor the goddess, offering prayers and sacrifices to express their gratitude for the earth's abundance. These rituals often take place around the hearth, where the fire is central to the ceremony. Offerings of food, such as fish, game, and rice, are made to Kamui Fuchi, as well as symbolic objects like carved wooden figures. These offerings are meant to show respect for the goddess, to ensure that the land continues to provide for the people, and to ask for her blessings for the future. In addition to being a protector of the home and the earth, Kamui Fuchi is also associated with the cycle of life and death. She is seen as a guardian of ancestors, connecting the living with the spirits of those who have passed. In Ainu culture, it is believed that the spirits of ancestors continue to live in the natural world, watching over their descendants. Kamui Fuchi is thought to mediate between the living and the dead, offering comfort and guidance to the people in times of need. Her warmth and care extend beyond the physical realm, ensuring that the spiritual connection between the earth, the fire, and the people remains intact. The Ainu people's reverence for Kamui Fuchi is a reflection of their deep connection to the land and their understanding of the delicate balance between nature and humanity. To the Ainu, the earth is not just a place to live, it is a living being, a mother who provides for her children and whose spirit must be respected. Kamui Fuchi, as the goddess of the hearth and the earth, represents the nurturing power of the natural world and the life-giving energy that sustains all living beings. Kamui Fuchi's presence is felt in every fire that burns, and every meal that is shared, and every crop that grows from the earth. She is the quiet force that keeps the world turning, the unseen energy that holds the land and its people together. Her influence is not loud or dramatic, but steady and constant, like the flame that flickers in the hearth. She is the mother, the protector, and the giver of life, whose warmth and care extend beyond the home and into the very earth itself. In the quiet moments, when the fire burns low and the world outside is still, it is Kamui Fuchi who watches over the Ainu people, ensuring that they are never without the warmth of her love and the bounty of her earth. Her essence is woven into the fabric of Ainu life, and the flames of the hearth that keep their homes warm also carry her spirit, reminding them of the deep bond between the earth, the fire, and the people who inhabit it. The warmth of Kamui Fuchi, like the hearth fire, is a light that guides them through the coldest of nights and the most difficult of times. Across the vast landscapes of the world, where cultures, beliefs, and traditions blend, there exists a rich tapestry of syncretic religions, those born from the merging of different spiritual systems. In these fluid religious landscapes, earth deities often take on new forms, weaving together elements of indigenous traditions, colonial influences, and the eternal connection between humanity and the land. These gods and goddesses may have roots in ancient mythologies, but in syncretic religions, they evolve, adapting to new beliefs, new environments, and the ever-shifting needs of their people. In syncretic religions, the earth is not just a physical entity. It is both the womb of creation and the keeper of ancient wisdom. Earth deities are seen as the lifeblood of the world, a divine presence that sustains all life and offers a moral compass. They take on diverse forms, sometimes embodying both the fertility of the soil and the cruelty of natural disasters. Their very existence reflects the complexity of the relationship between humans, nature, and the divine. One striking example of this is the syncretic blending of African, Christian, and indigenous beliefs in the Americas, particularly in Afro-Caribbean religions such as Vodou and Candomblé. These spiritual systems arose during the colonial era, when enslaved Africans were forcibly taken from their homelands and brought to the Caribbean and South America. In the face of oppression, these enslaved people managed to preserve their ancestral religious practices while simultaneously incorporating elements of Christianity and local indigenous beliefs. In these syncretic religions, earth deities often take on dual roles, bridging the gap between African, indigenous, and European spiritual systems. For example, in Haitian Vodou, the earth goddess, Izazan, is revered as a powerful spirit of the earth who protects the land and ensures the fertility of the soil. However, her identity is also entwined with the Christian figure of Saint Anne, creating a unique blending of the African earth goddess and the Christian saint. This merging of identities was not only a way of preserving African beliefs, but also a survival mechanism, allowing people to worship their deities under the guise of Christian saints, avoiding the wrath of colonial authorities. Similarly, in the Afro-Brazilian religion of Candomblé, the earth goddess, called Oxumare, is often associated with both the fertility of the land and the cyclical nature of time. She is seen as a protector of the earth, ensuring that it remains fertile and abundant for the people. However, her role is also deeply connected to the Yoruba god, Osun, who is linked to rivers and waters, but through syncretism, Oxumare inherits the role of both a water deity and an earth goddess. In this context, the earth is not only a physical place but a spiritual realm, one that is continually changing, evolving, and adapting to the needs of its people. In the case of the Andean cultures, syncretism brought about the fusion of indigenous deities with Catholicism. Pachamama, the earth goddess of the Inca people, continues to be venerated in modern Andean folk traditions. With the arrival of Catholic missionaries, Pachamama's identity was often merged with that of the Virgin Mary. In this syncretic form, Pachamama still holds dominion over the earth, ensuring that the crops grow, the soil remains fertile, and the seasons follow their natural course. Yet, the Virgin Mary's image, often accompanied by her divine maternal qualities, is invoked alongside Pachamama in ceremonies that blend the sacred and the earthly realms. These syncretic deities represent more than just a fusion of religious practices. They symbolize the resilience of human spirit and the ability to find connection, meaning, and purpose even in the most difficult of circumstances. By adapting old gods to new contexts, people could continue to practice their ancestral faiths while also navigating the complex web of power, colonialism, and resistance. These deities became symbols of survival, of continuity, of the persistence of culture in the face of oppression. In other parts of the world, similar processes of syncretism occurred, often in response to the forces of colonization or cultural exchange. The introduction of new ideas, religions, and spiritual practices did not erase the earth deities of indigenous cultures. Instead, it often led to a blending of beliefs, creating a more complex, multifaceted relationship with the land. Earth deities, in these contexts, become a reflection of human history, of the intertwining of past and present, of memory and adaptation. In Southeast Asia, for example, the Buddhist pantheon encountered and absorbed the indigenous beliefs of the peoples it encountered, leading to the incorporation of earth deities into Buddhist rituals. In Cambodia and Thailand, for instance, the goddess Mythology, who is considered the earth goddess, is seen as a protector of the land, invoked for her ability to control the earth and bring fertility to the soil. Yet, her worship is often intertwined with Buddhist practices, creating a syncretic form of devotion that links her powers to the Buddha's teachings. This blending of Buddhist and indigenous earth worship creates a spiritual landscape where the earth is revered not just as a physical entity but as a source of spiritual sustenance and protection. In Africa, too, syncretism is a powerful force. The Yoruba people of West Africa, for example, have a long tradition of earth worship, with deities such as Orunmila, the god of wisdom and fate, and Ashen, the goddess of fertility, embodying the very essence of nature's forces. With the arrival of Christianity and Islam, these deities were often merged with saints and other religious figures. Ashen, once a goddess of fresh water and fertility, is now frequently associated with the Virgin Mary and syncretic religious practices. Through this blending, the goddess retains her role as the nurturer and protector of the earth while also adapting to the changing religious landscape. The syncretic earth deities that arise from these interwoven traditions are not just the products of religious fusion, they are also symbols of cultural resilience, of the way people can maintain their ties to the land, their ancestors, and their beliefs, even in the face of foreign dominance. These deities embody the universal human experience, the need to connect with the earth, to feel its pulse, to understand its cycles, and to honor the forces that shape it. In the end, earth deities and syncretic religions are not just figures of myth and legend. They are alive in the hearts and minds of the people who continue to honor them, even as they evolve through the ages. These gods and goddesses are more than symbols of ancient times. They are living, breathing reflections of humanity's eternal connection to the earth, to the fire, to the water, and to the cycles that govern the world around us. Their power is timeless, their influence ever-present, and their ability to adapt to changing worlds is a testament to the enduring power of the earth itself. In the heart of modern spiritual movements, where ancient traditions and contemporary beliefs intertwine, earth goddesses find themselves at the forefront of a growing reverence for nature. Neo-paganism, a spiritual revival that embraces a deep connection to the earth, the seasons, and the cycles of life, draws heavily on ancient mythologies and traditions, reimagining them for the modern world. In this vibrant spiritual landscape, earth goddesses are not distant or archaic figures, but living symbols of life, fertility, and the sacredness of nature. They are not only objects of worship but powerful representations of the interconnectedness of all life, offering guidance, healing, and a sense of belonging to those who honor them. At the core of neo-pagan practices is a profound respect for the earth as a living, breathing entity. The earth is not simply a backdrop to human existence but a divine presence that sustains all life. It is through the worship of earth goddesses that neo-pagans express their reverence for the planet, acknowledging the sacredness of the land, the soil, the plants, the animals, and the very air that sustains life. These earth goddesses serve as intermediaries between the material and spiritual worlds, helping to bridge the gap between the physical realm and the divine. Their influence can be felt in the changing of the seasons, the growth of crops, the phases of the moon, and the cycles of birth, death, and rebirth. One of the most revered figures in modern neo-paganism is the triple goddess, a concept derived from ancient Celtic and pre-Celtic beliefs, often associated with the moon and the earth. The triple goddess embodies the three aspects of womanhood, maiden, mother, and crone, and by extension, she reflects the cyclical nature of life itself. The earth is seen as a nurturing mother, a provider of life, and a symbol of death and transformation. The triple goddess, in her various manifestations, is celebrated for her connection to the natural world, as she embodies the earth's fertility, its cycles, and its capacity to regenerate. Through her, neo-pagans honor the deep wisdom of the earth, acknowledging its power to heal, transform, and bring new life. Another prominent figure in neo-paganism is the ancient Greek goddess Gaia, who serves as a symbol of the earth as a living entity. In modern neo-pagan circles, Gaia is often invoked as a deity representing not just the physical planet, but the interconnectedness of all living beings. Gaia is seen as a mother figure, one who nurtures and protects, but also as a force that demands respect and care in return. Her worship is often associated with environmental activism, with followers believing that by honoring Gaia, they can help protect the earth from harm, promote sustainability, and restore the balance between humanity and the planet. Gaia is a powerful symbol of the Earth's vitality, resilience, and capacity to heal, reminding practitioners that the Earth is a living organism, one that requires attention, care, and respect. In addition to Gaia, the goddess Demeter from ancient Greek mythology also plays a central role in neo-pagan worship. Demeter, the goddess of agriculture, fertility, and the harvest, is revered for her deep connection to the land and the cycles of nature. In neo-pagan practices, Demeter is often celebrated for her role in ensuring the fertility of the earth, guiding the planting and harvesting of crops, and ensuring the survival of the community through the abundance of the land. Her worship is closely tied to the agricultural calendar, with rituals and celebrations marking the changing of the seasons, the planting of seeds, and the harvest. In modern neo-paganism, Demeter represents the deep wisdom of the earth and the vital connection between humanity and the land. Her role as a provider and protector of life is central to the beliefs of many neo-pagans, who see her as a guiding force in their relationship with the natural world. Another key earth goddess in neo-paganism is the Norse goddess Jord, who is the personification of the earth itself. Jord, in Norse mythology, is the mother of Thor, the thunder god, and is deeply connected to the land, the soil, and the elements that make up the earth. In neo-pagan practices, Jord is revered as a goddess who embodies the strength and vitality of the earth, providing sustenance, protection, and stability. She represents the unyielding power of the earth, its ability to endure and regenerate, and the vital energy that flows through all living things. Worship of Jord in neo-paganism emphasizes the earth's connection to the forces of nature, the need for balance and harmony, and the understanding that the earth is a living being with its own intelligence and wisdom. In Wicca, one of the most widely practiced forms of neo-paganism, the earth goddess is often identified with the concept of the Great Mother, a symbol of fertility, creation, and renewal. The Great Mother is typically represented by the earth itself, embodying the cycles of life and death, the phases of the moon, and the changing of the seasons. Wiccans honor the earth goddess through rituals, offerings, and seasonal celebrations that align with the natural rhythms of the earth. The Wheel of the Year, a key aspect of Wicca, is divided into 8 Sabbats that correspond to the turning of the seasons, and each of these Sabbats is dedicated to honoring the earth goddess in her various aspects. Through these rituals, Wiccans connect with the earth, celebrate its abundance, and acknowledge the sacredness of the land. Neo-paganism also draws on the rich traditions of indigenous earth worship, bringing together ancient beliefs with contemporary environmental concerns. Earth goddesses in these traditions are seen as embodiments of the earth's natural forces, and their worship is closely tied to the land, the elements, and the community. These goddesses are often invoked in rituals of healing, protection, and renewal, as practitioners seek to restore balance to the earth and protect it from the destructive forces of modern society. In many neo-pagan communities, there is a strong emphasis on eco-spirituality, with earth goddesses serving as symbols of environmental activism, sustainability, and the need for humanity to live in harmony with the earth. In neo-paganism, earth goddesses are not just abstract figures from ancient mythologies. They are living symbols of the earth's power, vitality, and resilience. They represent the deep, unbreakable connection between humanity and the natural world, reminding practitioners of their sacred duty to honor, protect, and nurture the earth. Through the worship of these goddesses, neo-pagans reclaim an ancient wisdom, recognizing the earth as a living, breathing entity that sustains all life, and in doing so, they affirm their commitment to living in balance with the land. Earth goddesses in neo-paganism are not just figures of devotion. They are powerful reminders of the sacredness of the earth and the responsibility that each of us bears in protecting it for future generations. Long ago, when the first seeds were pressed into the soil by human hands, the earth was not just ground to be tilled, it was a living, breathing entity, a sacred force that held the power of life itself. To early farming societies, the relationship between humanity and the earth was intimate, symbiotic, and vital for survival. In this profound connection, earth gods and goddesses emerged, embodying the spirit of the land and the cycles of nature. They were not distant or abstract figures, they were immediate, tangible forces whose favor determined the success or failure of crops, the abundance of harvests, and, ultimately, the survival of the community. As the sun rose over freshly turned fields, ancient farmers would look to the heavens and the earth with prayers on their lips, asking the deities for rain, sunlight, and fertile soil. These prayers and rituals were not mere acts of hope, they were expressions of an unshakable belief that the earth and its gods were deeply entwined with human destiny. Over time, these beliefs gave rise to intricate myths, stories that captured the essence of this sacred bond and preserved it for generations. In these myths, earth deities were often depicted as the very soul of the land. They were not merely gods who ruled over the earth, they were the earth, embodying its life-giving power, its rhythms, and its cycles. Fertility, both of the land and of life itself, became a central theme in their worship. To early agricultural societies, fertility was not just about reproduction, it was about the endless regeneration of life, the miracle of seeds transforming into food, and the promise of continuity even in the face of death. Take, for instance, the myth of Demeter and Persephone from ancient Greece. Demeter, the goddess of agriculture, personified the nurturing power of the earth. Her grief over the loss of her daughter, Persephone, to the underworld plunged the world into winter, halting the growth of crops and threatening human survival. Only when Persephone was allowed to return to the surface for part of the year did the earth bloom again, bringing spring and the promise of renewal. This myth, though deeply tied to Greek culture, reflects universal themes that resonate across early farming societies: the dependence on the cycles of nature, the rhythm of planting and harvesting, and the fragile balance between life and death. In Egypt, Geb, the god of the earth, held a similarly pivotal role. As the personification of the land, Geb was essential to the Nile's annual flooding, a phenomenon that fertilized the soil and made agriculture possible. The inundation was not merely a natural event, it was a divine act, a gift from Geb and the gods, ensuring that the people of Egypt could sustain themselves. The earth was sacred, its fertility a testament to the favor of the gods. Rituals to honor Geb and secure his blessings were woven into the fabric of Egyptian life, highlighting the profound link between religion and agriculture. In the Americas, earth deities were equally central to agricultural societies. For the Aztecs, Centeotl, the maize god, was at the heart of their existence. Maize was not just a staple crop, it was life itself, the very foundation of Aztec culture. Myths about Centeotl often depicted the earth as a provider, but one that required offerings in return. Blood and sacrifice were seen as the price of fertility, a way to nourish the earth so it could continue to nourish humanity. The cycles of planting, growth, and harvest were mirrored in these stories, embedding agricultural practices into the spiritual life of the people. In Andean cultures, Pachamama, the Earth Mother, was venerated as the ultimate provider. She governed the fertility of the land and the well-being of her people. Ceremonies to Pachamama often involved offerings of coca leaves, chicha, a traditional drink, and even small portions of the harvest, given back to the earth in gratitude. This act of reciprocity highlighted a fundamental belief: the earth was alive, and its gifts were not to be taken for granted. The myths of Pachamama and her enduring presence in Andean culture reveal a deep respect for the land, one that transcends time and remains relevant today. As agricultural practices evolved, so too did the myths surrounding earth deities. The transition from hunter-gatherer societies to settled agricultural communities marked a shift in humanity's relationship with the earth. The earth was no longer just a backdrop for survival, it became a partner, a force to be cultivated, nurtured, and, at times, appeased. This shift brought about new rituals, new stories, and new ways of understanding the divine. In early Mesopotamian culture, the earth goddess Ninhursag was central to the myths of creation. She was seen as the womb of the world, the source of all life, and the protector of fertility. In a society that depended heavily on irrigation and the careful management of land, her role as a life-giver was deeply intertwined with the daily realities of farming. Myths about Ninhursag emphasized the sacred nature of the earth, portraying it as both a source of life and a force that demanded respect. Even in the colder climates of northern Europe, where agriculture required resilience and ingenuity, earth deities like Nerthus were revered. Nerthus was associated with the fertility of the land and the cycles of planting and harvest. Her rituals often involved the use of sacred objects, believed to hold the power of the earth itself. The myths surrounding Nerthus reflect the centrality of agriculture in early Germanic tribes, where the success of crops was a matter of survival. What is striking about these myths, across cultures and continents, is their shared themes. They reflect humanity's universal reliance on the earth, the cycles of nature, and the fragile balance that sustains life. The earth gods and goddesses were more than just figures of worship, they were embodiments of the agricultural world, mirrors of humanity's dependence on the soil, the rain, and the sun. As farming techniques advanced, so too did the stories. Irrigation, crop rotation, and domestication of animals were not just technological innovations, they were seen as gifts from the gods, divine knowledge passed down to ensure humanity's survival. The myths evolved to incorporate these changes, portraying earth deities as not only protectors of the land, but also as teachers, guides who provided wisdom and knowledge to those willing to listen. Even today, the echoes of these ancient beliefs linger. Modern agricultural practices may rely on science and technology, but the fundamental relationship between humanity and the earth remains unchanged. The soil still provides, the seasons still turn, and the cycles of planting and harvesting continue. In many ways, the myths of the earth gods remind us of this timeless connection, urging us to honor the land, respect its power, and acknowledge the sacredness of its gifts. The earth, after all, has always been more than a provider. It is a partner, a source of life, and, for those who look deeply enough, a divine presence that connects us all. In the earliest flickers of human consciousness, when the rhythm of life was dictated by the turning of the seasons, fertility, death, and rebirth became the language through which people understood the world. This cycle, etched into the soil, whispered in the wind, and mirrored in the heavens, formed the heart of earth god myths across cultures. The earth, with its boundless capacity to nurture and transform, became both sanctuary and mystery, a source of life and a harbinger of its end. It was in this paradox that myths of earth gods were born, shaped by the awe and fear of those who relied on the land for survival. Fertility was the first sacred thread in these myths, weaving stories of creation and abundance. The earth was not simply a passive provider, it was an active, living force, bursting with potential. The act of planting seeds was a sacred ritual, a gesture of trust in the earth's power to bring forth life. To honor this process, people created gods and goddesses who personified fertility, nurturing, generative, and deeply intertwined with the rhythms of nature. In ancient Greece, Demeter stood as the embodiment of fertility. Her blessings were sought to ensure the growth of crops, the survival of livestock, and the prosperity of communities. The myth of her grief over the loss of Persephone captures the fragility of abundance. When Persephone was taken to the underworld, the earth ceased to yield. This tale was not just a story, it was a mirror to the agricultural reality of winter, a time when the fields lay barren and the people waited in hope for renewal. The myth became a sacred explanation of the planting and harvest cycle, a reminder that abundance was always followed by scarcity, but that rebirth would come. Similarly, in Mesoamerican cultures, Centeotl, the maize god of the Aztecs, represented the essence of fertility. Maize, the lifeblood of the Aztec civilization, was more than a crop, it was a sacred gift from the earth, imbued with divine energy. Centeotl's myths often depicted the deity's body being sacrificed to nourish the soil, a powerful metaphor for the planting of seeds, which died beneath the earth only to rise again as vibrant crops. This cycle of death and rebirth was not just symbolic, it was the foundation of agricultural life. Yet fertility could not exist without its counterpart, death. Death, in the myths of earth gods, was never an end but a necessary transition. The soil, rich and fertile, was a testament to the cycle of life. Leaves, animals, and even human bodies returned to the earth to nourish it. This understanding imbued death with a sense of purpose, transforming it from a feared finality into a sacred phase of renewal. The Egyptian god Osiris embodies this principle. Though primarily known as a god of the afterlife, Osiris's connection to the Nile and agriculture cannot be ignored. His myth tells of his death, dismemberment, and resurrection, mirroring the cycle of the river's flooding and retreat. The Nile's inundation brought fertility to the land, and its ebb marked a time of dormancy. In Osiris's resurrection, Egyptians saw the promise of life returning to the fields, a sacred assurance that death was but a passage to rebirth. Cultural rituals tied to planting and harvest reflected this profound relationship with the earth. In Andean traditions, offerings to Pachamama, the Earth Mother, were made before planting. Farmers would bury coca leaves, maize, or other small gifts in the soil, asking for her blessings. These rituals were acts of gratitude and recognition, a way of acknowledging that the earth's gifts were not guaranteed but granted through her favor. In the northern reaches of Europe, where winters were harsh and the growing season short, the rituals around Nerthus, the Germanic earth goddess, held a similar reverence for cycles. Nerthus's sacred chariot, drawn across the land, marked a time of fertility and renewal. Crops were planted with the hope that her presence would imbue the soil with life, and her departure signaled the turning of the season toward harvest and eventual rest. The interplay of fertility, death, and rebirth in earth god myths also extended to human life. The soil was a womb and a grave, a place where life began and where it returned. This understanding was not merely symbolic, it was woven into the fabric of existence. Funerary rituals often reflected this belief. In many cultures, bodies were buried with seeds or surrounded by symbols of fertility, as if to remind the earth to continue its cycle of renewal. Life was transient, but the earth was eternal, capable of transforming death into new beginnings. In India, the concept of the earth as both mother and receiver of life is vividly captured in the myths of Bhumi Devi, the earth goddess. She is both the fertile land that gives life and the ground that accepts it at the end. The rituals honoring her are tied to the agricultural calendar, celebrating her abundance during the harvest and her dormancy during the dry season. Festivals like Pongal and Makar Sankranti reflect this cyclical relationship, with offerings made to the earth in gratitude for its gifts. This cyclical nature of earth god myths reveals a universal truth: life is not linear but a continuous loop of beginnings and endings. Each harvest marks the end of one cycle and the promise of another. The myths, rituals, and beliefs that grew around this understanding were not just spiritual, they were practical, providing comfort and meaning in the face of uncertainty. They reminded people that even in the darkest moments, when fields lay barren, when famine loomed, renewal was always possible. Even in modern times, the echoes of these ancient beliefs persist. The changing of seasons, the planting of gardens, and the celebration of harvest festivals all carry the imprint of these myths. They remind us of our place in the cycle, of the delicate balance that sustains life, and of the sacredness of the earth's rhythms. In the stories of earth gods, fertility, death, and rebirth are not just themes, they are truths, eternal as the turning of the seasons and as vital as the soil beneath our feet. They speak to something deep within us, a knowledge that life is fragile yet enduring, finite yet infinite, rooted always in the sacred cycles of the earth. The earth has always been a canvas onto which humanity has projected its deepest understandings of life, power, and balance. In myths spanning centuries and continents, earth deities have been depicted in many forms: male, female, and androgynous, each representing unique facets of creation, destruction, and the cycles of existence. These gendered depictions are more than just a reflection of societal roles, they are a testament to humanity's attempts to make sense of the primal forces that shape our world. The earth as a nurturing mother is perhaps the most widespread and enduring image. Across cultures, female earth deities embody fertility, abundance, and the sustaining power of life. They are seen as the womb of the world, the origin of creation, and the giver of all things necessary for survival. These goddesses are often linked to the cycles of nature, planting, growth, and harvest, echoing the rhythms of childbirth and the seasons. Gaia, the Greek personification of earth, is the quintessential Mother Earth. She is not merely a goddess who rules over the land, she is the earth itself, a living being from whom all life springs. In Greek mythology, Gaia's fertility is boundless. She gives birth to the Titans, the first gods, and many of the primordial forces that shape the cosmos. Her nurturing role extends beyond creation. She is also a protector of balance, stepping in to correct the excesses of other gods or mortals. Similarly, in Celtic tradition, Danu is the mother of the Tuatha De Danann, a divine race linked to the land and its bounty. She represents sovereignty, a goddess whose favor legitimizes rulers and ensures the fertility of the land. The intertwining of her identity with the earth reflects the deep cultural association between femininity, fertility, and the sustenance of life. Yet, the earth is not always portrayed as nurturing or gentle. Female earth deities can also embody destruction, wielding the power to take life as easily as they give it. In Hindu mythology, Bhumi Devi represents the fertile, life-giving aspect of the earth, but her counterpart, Kali, reflects the earth's destructive potential. Kali is fierce, chaotic, and unyielding, embodying the earth's power to renew itself through destruction, a fire that clears the forest to make way for new growth. Male representations of earth deities often emphasize strength, stability, and the generative forces of nature. These gods are frequently tied to the physicality of the land, mountains, valleys, and soil itself. They represent the earth as a sturdy foundation, a force of endurance and protection. Geb, the Egyptian god of the earth, is a striking example of a male earth deity. Unlike many other cultures that feminize the earth, Egyptian mythology places Geb as a central figure in the cosmos. His laughter causes earthquakes, and his body forms the fertile ground upon which all life depends. As the father of plants and living beings, Geb is both a creator and a guardian, his presence a reminder of the earth's power to sustain life. In Incan mythology, Pachamama, a male deity, is associated with the land's creation and fertility. His role complements Pachamama, the female earth goddess, illustrating how gendered representations can coexist and balance each other. Together, they highlight the duality of Earth's nature, nurturing and demanding, generative and destructive. Androgynous or dual-gender Earth deities, while less common, hold a unique place in mythology. These figures embody the idea that the Earth transcends human constructs of gender, encompassing all aspects of creation and destruction within a single entity. They remind us that the Earth is a unity of opposites, containing within it both the male and female principles, often seen as necessary for balance and harmony. Centeotl, the maize god of the Aztecs, is one such example. Depicted as both male and female, Centeotl reflects the importance of maize as a life-sustaining crop that connects the cycles of life and death. This duality emphasizes the interconnectedness of creation and destruction, fertility and sacrifice, and the agricultural cycles central to Mesoamerican life. In Japanese mythology, the deity Kabiko embodies another kind of gender ambiguity. As a scarecrow deity tied to the land and agriculture, Kabiko transcends human definitions of male or female, representing the wisdom of the earth itself. This neutrality reflects the impartiality of the land, which nurtures all life without discrimination. Gender roles in myths of creation and destruction often mirror the societal values and structures of the cultures that created them. In patriarchal societies, male earth deities may dominate, reflecting ideals of strength and control over the land. Conversely, in cultures that emphasize matrilineal traditions or fertility, female deities take precedence, highlighting the nurturing and cyclical nature of existence. However, the gender of earth deities is not always rigidly defined. Many myths reveal a fluidity in their roles, suggesting that the earth's power cannot be fully captured by human categories. Creation and destruction are not opposites but complementary forces, each essential to the other. The earth, in its vastness, holds both the generative power of a mother and the enduring strength of a father, transcending the binary distinctions that often define human experience. The cyclic nature of creation and destruction is perhaps the most universal theme among earth deities. Fertility brings life, but death is necessary to make room for rebirth. This cycle is evident in the seasons, in the planting and harvesting of crops, and in the rise and fall of civilizations. Gendered representations of earth gods reflect this balance, showing how the forces of nature are both nurturing and relentless, gentle and fierce. In the end, the earth itself remains a mystery, at once giver and taker, creator and destroyer. Whether represented as male, female, or beyond gender, earth deities remind us of this duality, urging us to respect the delicate balance that sustains life. Their myths speak not only to the power of the land, but to the profound interconnectedness of all things, a lesson as relevant today as it was in the earliest days of human history. In the whisper of the wind over mountain peaks, the gentle rustle of leaves in a sacred grove, or the stillness of a deep cave, ancient peoples found the divine. The earth itself, its hills, rivers, forests, and valleys, was imbued with the sacred. It wasn't just the source of survival, it was the dwelling place of gods. Sacred geography, the intimate link between land and divinity, shaped the myths and worship of earth gods, forging an unbreakable bond between humanity and the natural world. Across cultures, the sacred spaces dedicated to earth deities were not arbitrary. They were chosen with reverence, inspired by the features of the land itself. These spaces became physical manifestations of myth, where the divine touched the mortal and where the stories of earth gods came alive. In Greece, Mount Olympus towered as the home of the gods, but for Gaia, the earth itself was her temple. Groves of ancient oak trees, such as those at Dodona, became sacred to her and other deities. The rustling of leaves in these groves was interpreted as the voice of the earth, offering guidance and wisdom. For the Greeks, the land was not just a resource, it was a living entity, a being that could speak, nourish, and even judge. In Sumer, the ziggurats, towering, terraced structures that reached toward the sky, were rooted deeply in the earth. These architectural marvels symbolized humanity's connection to both heaven and the land below. Temples dedicated to Ninhursag, the Sumerian Earth Mother, were often surrounded by lush gardens, reflecting her role as a fertility goddess and a nurturer of life. The architecture itself mimicked the layers of the earth, a tribute to her domain. The Nile River, the lifeblood of ancient Egypt, shaped the worship of Geb, the earth god. Geb was not worshipped in isolated temples, but in the very fields that lined the Nile. The river's seasonal flooding, which enriched the soil with silt, was seen as his laughter, a blessing that made the land fertile. Rituals often involved offerings placed directly into the earth, acknowledging its sacredness as both a creator and sustainer. For the Inca, the Andean mountains were sacred geography personified. Pachamama, the Earth Mother, was honored in rituals performed at high altitudes, closer to the heavens. Terraced farming, a hallmark of Incan civilization, was not just an agricultural technique but a form of devotion, a way to harmonize with the natural contours of the land. Sacred sites like Machu Picchu were constructed with a deep awareness of their surroundings, aligning with celestial events and integrating seamlessly into the Earth's rugged terrain. The sacred spaces of the Germanic tribes reflected their deep connection to the land's untamed wilderness. Nerthus, the earth goddess, was honored in ceremonies conducted near lakes and marshes, landscapes that seemed to pulse with primordial energy. Her sacred chariot, stored in a grove, was said to travel the land during her festivals, blessing it with fertility. These rituals were acts of communion with the land, a recognition of its sacred power. In Japan, the Shinto reverence for natural features like mountains, forests, and rivers finds its roots in earth-based spirituality. Kamui Fuchi, the Ainu earth goddess, was associated with fire and hearth, central elements of the home. Her worship extended to the land itself, with sacred rituals performed in harmony with the cycles of nature. Geography shaped not only her myths, but the very fabric of daily life. The geography of sacred spaces also influenced the stories told about earth gods. Volcanoes, for example, were seen as the fiery breath of Pele, the Hawaiian goddess of volcanoes. Her myths are inseparable from the volcanic islands of Hawaii, where her presence is felt in every eruption and every new landmass formed by lava. The islands themselves are her canvas, a living testament to her creative and destructive powers. Caves, often regarded as portals to the underworld, were sacred spaces tied to earth deities associated with death and rebirth. In Mayan mythology, the cenotes, natural sinkholes filled with water, were considered entrances to the underworld and were sacred to deities like Ixchel, the goddess of fertility and water. Ritual offerings, including jade, gold, and even human sacrifices, were made in these cenotes to honor her and seek her blessings. In India, rivers like the Ganges became embodiments of Earth's sacredness. Though often associated with water, their connection to the land was undeniable. Bhumi Devi, the Hindu earth goddess, was honored in rituals performed at riverbanks, where the fertile soil symbolized her life-giving power. Sacred geography here was not confined to one feature but extended to the interplay between land and water, reinforcing the interconnectedness of natural forces. The role of sacred geography extended beyond worship; it shaped the very identity of civilizations. For indigenous cultures like the Maori of New Zealand, the land itself was a living ancestor. Papachuanuku, the Earth Mother, was honored in every mountain, forest, and plain. Her myths were not abstract; they were tied to specific places, grounding the Maori people in their environment and instilling a deep sense of stewardship. Sacred geography also reflected the tension between humanity's reverence for the earth and its attempts to dominate it. Temples and monuments were built as acts of devotion, yet they often symbolized human power over nature. The ziggurats of Mesopotamia, the pyramids of Egypt, and the stone structures of the Andes all demonstrate this duality, a profound respect for the earth coupled with the desire to reshape it. This relationship between geography and divinity was not static; it evolved with time. As societies grew and changed, so too did their sacred spaces. Forests were cleared, rivers were dammed, and mountains were mined, often at the expense of the sacredness once attributed to them. Yet, the echoes of these ancient beliefs persist, reminding us of a time when the land itself was holy. The Earth's geography, in all its majesty and complexity, continues to inspire awe. The sacred spaces of the past may be withered by time, but their stories endure. They are a testament to humanity's enduring connection to the land, a connection that, despite the passage of millennia, remains as vital as ever. The myths of earth gods are etched not just in memory but in the very landscape itself, waiting to be remembered. The earth, once revered as divine, has not always held its sacred stature in the hearts of humanity. Across cultures, the decline of earth gods is a tale woven with the threads of conquest, shifting beliefs, and the relentless march of modernity. It is a story of how humanity, once in awe of the land that nurtured it, began to distance itself from the sacred bond between soil and spirit. The fall of these gods is not just a narrative of lost worship but a reflection of how our relationship with the earth has changed over time. The arrival of monotheism heralded one of the most profound shifts in human spiritual history. With its rise, the pantheons of ancient deities began to wane. The earth gods, once central to survival and cultural identity, found themselves supplanted by a singular, omnipotent deity that often placed humanity above nature. In the Christian tradition, for instance, the earth was no longer personified as a mother or a living entity but as a resource created by God for human use. The shift was seismic. Where once there was reverence for the rhythms of the land, now there was dominion. The Roman Empire's conversion to Christianity marked a pivotal moment. Temples to Tellus Mater, the Roman Mother Earth, were abandoned, her festivals fading into obscurity. The rites that once honored her fertility and the land's abundance were replaced with prayers to saints and the celebration of a god beyond the physical world. This was not merely a religious transformation but a cultural one. As the sacred was moved to the heavens, the earth became mundane. Conquest also played its part. The gods of the conquered often fell to the gods of the conquerors, their temples destroyed or repurposed. When Spanish conquistadors arrived in the Americas, they brought with them not only swords and guns, but also a new faith. Pachamama, the Andean Earth Mother, was woven into Catholicism, transformed into the Virgin Mary in an effort to suppress her worship while accommodating the indigenous need for connection to the land. It was a compromise, but one that diminished her once vital role as the heartbeat of Andean spirituality. Industrialization delivered another blow. With the advent of machines and the rise of cities, humanity's dependence on the land seemed to lessen. The rhythms of nature, once dictating life's tempo, were replaced by the hum of factories and the clockwork precision of modern life. Fertility festivals, planting rituals, and harvest celebrations gave way to standardized agriculture and mass production. The gods tied to these practices, Ceres, Demeter, Acacia, became relics of an agrarian past, their names remembered only in myths and historical texts. But the decline of earth gods was not just about external forces. Humanity's growing sense of control over nature played a role. The ability to manipulate the environment, to irrigate deserts, to mine mountains, to pave over forests, created an illusion of independence from the earth. In this shift, the sacredness of the land was not just forgotten, it was actively dismissed. The earth, no longer seen as alive or divine, was reduced to a resource, its value measured in what it could provide, not in what it inherently was. This estrangement was not universal or absolute. In some cultures, earth gods clung to life in the form of folk traditions and local rituals. The Slavic goddess Mokosh, for instance, persisted in rural practices long after Christianity swept through Eastern Europe. Similarly, in the Andes, Pachamama remains a vibrant part of indigenous spirituality, her worship enduring alongside Catholicism. These pockets of resistance speak to the deep roots of earth-based spirituality and its resilience in the face of change. The loss of earth gods also reflects a psychological shift. Their decline mirrors humanity's growing alienation from the natural world. As people moved into cities, surrounded by concrete and steel, the land became distant, a backdrop to life rather than its foundation. The gods that once symbolized the cycles of life and death, fertility and decay, no longer felt relevant to a world where seasons were marked by holidays and food came from grocery stores. Yet, the decline of earth gods is not the end of their story. Echoes of their worship remain in cultural memory, in the myths passed down through generations, and in the whispers of traditions that refuse to fade completely. In the modern resurgence of interest in the environment and sustainability, there is a faint but growing recognition of what was lost. The reverence for the earth that these gods once embodied may be finding new forms, not in temples or festivals, but in movements that seek to heal the fractured relationship between humanity and the land. The decline of earth gods is a cautionary tale. It warns of the dangers of forgetting the source of life, of losing sight of the sacred in the pursuit of progress. But it is also a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and its capacity to remember, to reconnect, and to rediscover the divine in the soil beneath our feet. Perhaps their decline is not the end, but a pause, a silence waiting to be filled with the songs of a new reverence for the earth. The earth, vast and enduring, is more than a physical presence, it is a vessel of memory, a repository of stories woven into the fabric of folklore. Across cultures, earth deities have shaped the tales whispered around campfires, sung in lullabies, and etched into the collective imagination of humanity. Unlike the grand myths that place these gods on pedestals, folklore often brings them closer, transforming them into figures that walk among us, weaving the sacred into the mundane. In the green folds of Europe's countryside, stories of the earth's spirit lingered long after the rise of organized religion. In Slavic folklore, Mokosh, the moist earth mother, became a familiar presence in rural life. Farmers believed that she protected their homes and crops, her essence lingering in the fertile soil and the weaving of flax. Women, who felt her presence most strongly, would leave offerings of milk or bread at her sacred wells, whispering prayers for fertility and prosperity. These acts were not grand rituals, but small, intimate exchanges, a reflection of the close bond people felt with the land. In the dense forests of Germany, Nerthus was not just a goddess of the earth, but a living presence. Her sacred chariot, said to emerge from a grove during her festivals, carried her through the land to bless it. Over time, her worship faded, but her essence was absorbed into tales of sacred groves and enchanted forests, where spirits of the land lingered, guarding the natural world. These stories kept her alive in the imagination, transforming her from a deity into a whisper of the wild. The tales of the Celtic lands are steeped in earth's power. Danu, the mother of the Tuatha De Danann, embodies the rivers and hills of Ireland. While grand myths celebrate her as a divine ancestor, folklore softens her image, tying her to specific places, the gentle curve of a river, the shadows of ancient mounds. In these stories, she becomes less of a goddess and more of a guardian, a figure who watches over the land and its people, her presence felt in the rising mist and the flowing streams. In the Americas, the earth is equally alive in folklore. Among the Andean peoples, Pachamama remains a beloved figure. She is not distant or aloof, but deeply involved in daily life. Farmers still pour chicha, a fermented drink, onto the ground as an offering, asking her to bless their fields. In the stories shared by elders, she is a nurturing but firm mother, one who provides but also punishes those who take without gratitude. Her voice can be heard in the rumble of earthquakes or the gentle fall of rain, reminding her people of her power. Further north, the stories of the Inuit reflect a harsher, more immediate relationship with the earth. Sedna, the goddess of the sea and earth, is central to their folklore. Her tale is one of betrayal and transformation, her severed fingers becoming the creatures of the ocean. Hunters whisper her name before setting out, seeking her favor to ensure a bountiful catch. Sedna is not a comforting presence, she is raw and untamed, a reminder of nature's power and its capacity for both generosity and vengeance. In Japan, folklore tells of Kamui Fuchi, the Ainu goddess of the hearth and earth. She is a quiet but constant presence, her spirit believed to reside in the flames that warm homes. Her stories are not about grand gestures, but the steady rhythm of life, the cooking of meals, the weaving of cloth, the cycle of the seasons. In Ainu villages, her spirit is honored in simple rituals, acts that affirm her place as the heart of both home and land. African folklore often intertwines earth deities with ancestral spirits. Among the Akan of West Africa, Asasia is not just the earth, but also the moral compass of the community. Her stories teach respect for the land and its resources. To plow the earth without asking her permission is to invite her displeasure, a lesson passed down through generations. Her presence in folklore is not just a spiritual figure but a teacher, guiding her people in how to live in harmony with the land. In Hawaii, Pele, the goddess of volcanoes, is both revered and feared. Her legends are vivid and alive, told and retold with reverence. She is said to walk among the islands in human form, testing the kindness of strangers. To see her as a beautiful young woman or an old crone is to encounter the earth itself. Her wrath is as legendary as her beauty, the flowing lava is her fiery spirit, a reminder of her power to create and destroy. The thread running through these diverse stories is the intimacy of earth deities in folklore. Unlike the often distant figures of myth, these gods feel close, part of the landscape, the home, and the daily lives of their people. They are not only revered but engaged with, their presence a constant reminder of humanity's connection to the land. In the modern world, as industrialization and urbanization spread, these stories have often been relegated to the past. Yet they endure in quiet ways, whispered in rural communities, remembered during festivals, or felt in the rituals of those who still work the land. Folklore, with its fluid boundaries and intimate nature, has allowed these deities to persist, adapting to changing times while holding on to the essence of humanity's bond with the earth. These stories are more than remnants of old beliefs, they are a call to remember. They remind us that the earth is not just a backdrop to our lives but a living, breathing entity, one that holds our past and shapes our future. As we walk through forests, till the soil, or stand before the ocean, these tales linger, inviting us to listen to the earth's whispers and feel its pulse beneath our feet. The stories of earth deities have transcended the oral traditions of ancient cultures, finding new life in literature and media. Over centuries, writers, poets, and creators have drawn upon the rich tapestry of earth-centric myths, reimagining these ancient figures and themes in ways that resonate with contemporary audiences. This intersection of old and new breathes life into timeless stories, offering both a homage to the past and a mirror to modern society's evolving relationship with the earth. In classic literature, earth deities often emerge as symbols of the natural world, fertility, and humanity's interconnectedness with nature. One cannot discuss earth goddesses in literature without mentioning the influence of Greek mythology. Gaia, the primordial earth goddess, has inspired countless works, from Hesiod's Theogony to modern adaptations. In these texts, she represents the enduring strength of the earth, a force that persists through chaos and creation. She is not a passive observer but an active participant in the cosmos, reminding readers of the Earth's foundational role in life. Moving into the realm of medieval and early modern literature, the Earth was often personified through allegorical figures. In Edmund Spenser's The Fairy Queen, the natural world is imbued with divine significance. While specific earth deities are absent, the text reflects the enduring influence of earth as a sacred and living force. Similarly, the Romantic poets of the 18th and 19th centuries, Wordsworth, Shelley, and Keats, drew heavily on earth imagery, weaving elements of mythology into their celebrations of the sublime and the natural world. These poets were not merely inspired by nature, they saw it as a repository of divine essence, echoing the reverence once reserved for earth deities. In the 20th century, the ecological movement reinvigorated interest in earth-centric myths, particularly in fiction and poetry. Writers like Jean Jonot in The Man Who Planted Trees or Aldo Leopold in A Sand County Almanac reflect themes reminiscent of earth god narratives, nurturing the land, cycles of growth and decay, and humanity's responsibility toward the planet. These works echo ancient myths while addressing modern concerns, creating a bridge between past reverence and present action. In contemporary media, earth deities have become symbols of environmental consciousness and the fight against ecological destruction. Films like Princess Mononoke by Hayao Miyazaki explore the tension between human industry and the sacredness of the land. The forest spirit, a manifestation of nature itself, embodies the duality of earth gods, benevolent and nurturing, yet capable of wrath when disrespected. Similarly, the animated film Moana features Te Fiti, a goddess whose transformation from destruction to renewal mirrors myths of earth goddesses like Pele or Demeter. These stories resonate deeply in a world grappling with environmental crises, offering hope and caution in equal measure. The earth goddess archetype also thrives in fantasy literature. J.R.R. Tolkien's Middle-earth is imbued with mythological elements drawn from various traditions. The land itself is treated with reverence, and figures like Yavanna Kementari, one of the Vala, bear strong parallels to earth deities. Yavanna's role as a protector of plants and animals echoes the nurturing aspect of deities like Asace Ya or Pachamama. Similarly, Ursula K. Le Guin's Earthsea series incorporates ecological themes and an awareness of balance, reflecting the influence of Earth-centric spiritualities on our narrative world. Modern science fiction also integrates Earth deity themes in nuanced ways. Kim Stanley Robinson's Mars trilogy reimagines humanity's relationship with the Earth and other planets, addressing the need to respect and understand the land, even as we terraform it. While not directly invoking Earth gods, the series carries their thematic weight, blending ancient reverence with futuristic contexts. In comics and graphic novels, Earth deities and themes appear as powerful symbols. Marvel's Gaia, based on the Greek goddess, is a recurring character who embodies the life-giving essence of the planet. Her presence in the Marvel universe underscores the continuing relevance of these myths in popular culture. Similarly, Neil Gaiman's The Sandman series touches upon Earth-centric deities and mythological motifs, presenting them in modern, often subversive contexts. Music and visual arts have also played a role in keeping Earth deities alive in the cultural imagination. Songs like Joni Mitchell's Big Yellow Taxi and Michael Jackson's Earth Song are modern hymns to the planet, lamenting humanity's disconnection from nature. In visual arts, the works of artists like Georgia O'Keeffe evoke a sense of Earth's divinity, her paintings of flowers and landscapes capturing the essence of life and fertility. In gaming, Earth deities have been reimagined as powerful entities that players interact with. Video games like The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild incorporate Earth-like spirits and themes of environmental balance. The connection to the land is a central narrative and gameplay mechanic, reinforcing ancient values in an interactive format. As humanity continues to face challenges of climate change, deforestation, and biodiversity loss, the narratives of Earth deities in literature and media serve as both inspiration and warning. These figures remind us of our responsibility to the planet, the cycles of life and death that govern existence, and the profound beauty and power of the natural world. In these retellings and reinterpretations, Earth deities are not just relics of the past, they are evolving symbols, shaping and being shaped by the times. Their presence in literature and media is a testament to their enduring relevance, a reminder that the stories we tell about the Earth are, in many ways, the stories we tell about ourselves. The ancient reverence for earth gods has found a profound echo in the modern environmental movement. As humanity grapples with the consequences of exploiting the planet's resources, the wisdom embedded in these ancient myths offers both guidance and a rallying cry. The earth gods, once worshipped as guardians of the land, now stand as symbols of environmental consciousness, embodying the need for balance, respect, and stewardship of the natural world. In many cultures, earth deities were not just figures of worship but manifestations of the land itself. This close association made their myths deeply tied to sustainable practices. The Andean goddess Pachamama, for instance, was honored through rituals that celebrated the cycles of planting and harvest. Even today, her spirit is invoked during traditional ceremonies that emphasize reciprocity with the land, such as the Pago a la Tierra, payment to the earth. These ceremonies align closely with modern ideas of sustainability, reminding us that the Earth's resources are not limitless and that gratitude and conservation go hand in hand. Similarly, in Hinduism, Bhumi Devi is revered as the personification of the earth. Ancient texts describe her suffering under the burden of human greed and disrespect, a narrative that feels eerily prescient in an age of deforestation, pollution, and climate change. This depiction of the earth as a living, feeling entity aligns closely with the environmentalist ethos, which seeks to frame ecological issues not just in terms of resource management but as a moral imperative. The myths of Demeter and Persephone also carry an environmental message. The story of the earth's fertility tied to Persephone's cyclical descent into the underworld can be interpreted as a reminder of nature's delicate balance. The barren winter and fruitful spring symbolize the interconnectedness of life and death, growth and dormancy, concepts central to ecological cycles. Environmentalism, like these ancient stories, urges humanity to respect and preserve this balance. Modern environmental movements have drawn directly from these mythological underpinnings. Ecofeminism, for instance, has often invoked earth goddesses as symbols of resistance against exploitation. Figures like Gaia and Demeter have become icons of the interconnectedness of ecological and social systems, challenging patriarchal structures that prioritize domination over harmony. These ancient deities remind us that nurturing, not control, is the foundation of sustainable living. In literature and advocacy, the imagery of earth gods has become a powerful tool. James Lovelock's Gaia hypothesis, which proposes that the earth functions as a self-regulating organism, is a direct nod to the Greek goddess. This concept has provided a scientific framework for understanding the planet's interconnected systems, while also evoking the spiritual and mythological reverence for Earth as a living entity. Gaia's name, once whispered in temples, now resonates in environmental conferences and grassroots movements. The indigenous worldview, deeply rooted in Earth-centric spirituality, offers another critical lens for understanding the link between ancient Earth gods and modern environmentalism. In Maori traditions, Papachūānuku, the Earth Mother, is central to their cosmology. The Maori concept of Kaitiakitanga, or guardianship of the Earth, reflects Papachūānuku's enduring influence. It emphasizes stewardship, respect for natural resources, and the interconnectedness of all living things, values that mirror the principles of environmental conservation. In contemporary activism, the narrative power of Earth deities has been harnessed to inspire change. Movements like the Pachamama Alliance explicitly draw from indigenous spirituality, advocating for sustainable living while honoring the earth as sacred. Rituals, ceremonies, and storytelling, methods once used to worship earth gods, are now tools to unite people across cultures in the fight against ecological degradation. Art and media have also played a significant role in linking earth god myths with environmentalism. Films like Avatar portray a world where the sacred connection between the land and its inhabitants mirrors ancient Earth-centric spirituality. The Nausicaa people's reverence for their planet, Iowa, parallels the worship of deities like Pachamama or Bhumi Devi. Such narratives remind audiences of the devastating consequences of severing the bond between humanity and nature. In a world increasingly dominated by industrialization and urbanization, the lessons of Earth deities feel more urgent than ever. These ancient figures embody the idea that the Earth is not merely a resource to be exploited but a sacred entity to be honored. They challenge modern societies to rethink their relationship with the planet, to replace extraction with reciprocity, and to embrace a worldview that sees humanity as part of the earth, not apart from it. While the myths of earth gods may have been born in times long past, their relevance today is undeniable. They serve as bridges between ancient wisdom and contemporary challenges, offering a timeless reminder that the earth's health is inextricably linked to our own. In the stories of Gaia, Pachamama, Bhumi Devi, and countless others, we find not only a connection to the past, but also a blueprint for a more harmonious future. Across the world, festivals celebrating the earth reveal the enduring connection between humanity and the natural world. These events, rooted in both ancient traditions and modern environmental consciousness, honor the land, the cycles of nature, and our dependence on its gifts. They provide moments of unity, reflection, and gratitude, echoing the age-old reverence for earth deities while adapting to contemporary cultural and ecological challenges. In Andean communities, Pachamama Remi, Festival of Mother Earth, continues the veneration of Pachamama, the Earth Mother. This annual celebration, typically held in August, is a heartfelt ritual of reciprocity with the earth. Families gather to prepare offerings, burying coca leaves, corn, and other symbolic items in the soil as a gesture of gratitude and to ensure the fertility of the land. The atmosphere is both solemn and joyous, with traditional music, dance, and communal feasts reminding participants of their shared responsibility to protect the earth. In Japan, Dosujin Matsuri honors the earth and its spirits, particularly deities that protect travelers and the land. Villages light enormous bonfires in mid-January to cleanse and renew the earth, symbolically asking for fertility and abundance in the coming year. This festival merges Shinto beliefs with agricultural traditions, embodying the interconnectedness of the land, its guardians, and its people. Closer to the equator, West African communities celebrate Hamawo, a harvest festival among the Ga people of Ghana. The name means hooting at hunger, and it commemorates a successful harvest after a famine. Rooted in gratitude to the earth and its fertility, the festival includes ritual prayers, the sprinkling of pakpoi, a sacred dish made of cornmeal, on the ground, and energetic drumming and dancing. It reflects an understanding of the earth as a life-giving force that must be honored to ensure abundance. In North America, Earth Day has emerged as a global phenomenon, transcending its origins in the environmental movement of the 1970s. Observed annually on April 22nd, it draws on the spirit of ancient Earth festivals while addressing modern ecological challenges. Communities across the world engage in tree planting, cleanup drives, and educational programs, combining activism with celebration. Though secular in nature, Earth Day resonates with the spiritual undertones of ancient rituals, reminding participants of their responsibility to care for the planet. In Northern Europe, Walpurgis Night blends pre-Christian and Christian traditions to mark the arrival of spring and the rejuvenation of the earth. Celebrated on April 30th with bonfires and music, the festival once honored the fertility of the land and its deities. The flames symbolized protection against winter's lingering darkness and welcomed the Earth's rebirth. Today, the festivities retain their connection to nature's cycles, bridging ancient reverence with modern cultural expressions. Indigenous Australians celebrate Garma, a festival deeply tied to the Yolngu people's connection to the land. This cultural event serves as a platform for traditional dance, storytelling, and art, emphasizing the relationship between the Yolngu and their sacred landscapes. While Garma fosters reconciliation and cultural exchange, its spiritual core remains rooted in honoring the land as a living, breathing entity. The Indian festival of Makar Sankranti marks the transition of the sun into Capricorn and celebrates the end of winter and the start of the harvest season. Observed in mid-January, it is a time of joyous gratitude for the earth's bounty. Offerings of sweets made from sesame and jaggery, kite flying, and community feasts are common. This festival, while celestial in origin, reflects the agricultural rhythms and the profound connection between people and the land. In China, Qingming Festival or Tomb Sweeping Day carries echoes of earth reverence. Families visit ancestral graves, cleaning and tending them while offering food and incense. This practice underscores the link between family, the land, and the cycles of life and death. The day also serves as a time to enjoy the outdoors, emphasizing the renewal of both the earth and human connections. In Bali, the Balinese Hindus celebrate Nyepi, a day of silence, fasting, and introspection. It is part of their New Year celebrations and serves to cleanse the island of negative energies, giving the earth a moment of respite. Streets fall silent, lights are dimmed, and activities cease, symbolizing a pause for both humanity and nature. This act of collective mindfulness reflects an understanding of the Earth's need for restoration and balance. Around the Arctic, Inuit communities hold ceremonies to honor Sedna, the goddess of the sea and earth. These traditions, though varying across regions, often involve offerings to ensure the balance of the natural world. The interconnectedness of the sea, land, and human life is central, reminding participants of their reliance on the Earth's harmony. These festivals, spanning continents and cultures, are more than just celebrations. They are acts of gratitude, acknowledgement, and reverence. They remind us of our shared history with the earth, the universal cycles that govern life, and the enduring wisdom of ancient traditions. In a world increasingly detached from its natural roots, these moments of collective connection serve as powerful reminders of what it means to live in harmony with the planet. The legacy of Earth gods is not confined to the ancient temples, rituals, or mythologies in which they were born. Their spirit lingers, etched into the collective psyche of humanity, whispering reminders of our inseparable bond with the planet. These deities, once invoked through offerings and prayers, now find their echoes in modern ideals, art, literature, and a growing global consciousness about the environment. Their stories persist as more than myths. They are blueprints for understanding the cycles of life and the delicate balance that sustains existence. In their essence, Earth gods represent the primal forces of creation, sustenance, and destruction. Gaia, Pachamama, Bhumi Devi, and countless others embodied the rhythms of the earth, the seeds sprouting, the river's flow, the mountain's permanence, and the inevitable return of all things to the soil. These archetypes, transcending cultures and eras, remind us of the Earth's dual role as both provider and protector. Though temples crumble and ancient rituals fade, the reverence for the Earth persists. In modern environmentalism, Earth gods have found a renewed purpose. Gaia, for example, has transcended Greek mythology to become a symbol of planetary interconnection through James Lovelock's Gaia hypothesis. This scientific framework, envisioning the Earth as a self-regulating organism, channels ancient wisdom into contemporary ecological science. It bridges the mystical and the empirical, reinforcing the message that our planet is a living entity deserving of respect and care. Art and literature have also preserved and reimagined Earth gods, using them to critique modern society's relationship with nature. From the haunting poetry of William Blake to the sweeping narratives of modern eco-fiction, the Earth goddess serves as a muse and a warning. Films like Avatar and novels like The Overstory evoke the ancient themes of harmony and exploitation, reminding audiences of the high stakes in humanity's current environmental choices. These creative works reawaken the reverence once reserved for sacred groves and altars, urging a return to balance. Even as societies grow more secular, rituals honoring the earth endure in forms both explicit and subtle. Festivals like Earth Day and World Environment Day are contemporary equivalents of ancient ceremonies, gathering people to reflect on their impact on the planet. While their language may lack the spiritual overtones of old, their core message remains deeply aligned with the principles once embodied by Earth gods: gratitude, stewardship, and the celebration of life. Indigenous traditions, often marginalized by modernity, have preserved the most direct connections to Earth god worship. The Maori's Papachuanuku, the Yoruba's Asasia, and the Lakota's Grandmother Earth are not relics of the past, but living aspects of cultural identity. Their stories, songs, and ceremonies continue to guide communities, offering insights into sustainable living and a worldview that places the earth at the center of existence. These traditions resist the commodification of nature, holding onto the belief that the land is not property but kin. The gendered nature of Earth gods also carries a legacy, influencing modern discussions of feminism and ecofeminism. The nurturing, generative aspects of female deities like Demeter and Danu highlight a perspective that sees care and cooperation as strengths rather than weaknesses. At the same time, the male and androgynous earth deities remind us of the diversity in the ways humanity has understood its relationship with nature. This multifaceted legacy challenges us to embrace complexity rather than impose hierarchy. In the face of climate change, deforestation, and the mass extinction of species, the lessons of earth gods feel more urgent than ever. Their myths speak to the consequences of imbalance, warning of famine, chaos, and the wrath of a neglected earth. These warnings are no longer just stories, they are unfolding realities. Yet, within these myths also lies hope, the promise of renewal, the possibility of healing. The cycles of destruction and rebirth that these deities represent remind us that even in the face of catastrophe, restoration is possible if respect and balance are restored. The enduring legacy of earth gods is not just a memory, it is a call to action. Their stories challenge us to see the sacred in the soil, the rivers, and the air. They invite us to rebuild our connection with the planet, not as masters, but as caretakers. In their echoes, we hear both the ancient songs of gratitude and the modern cries for change. They compel us to remember that the earth is not ours to conquer, but ours to cherish. Through them, we are reminded of the profound truth: to honor the earth is to honor life itself. Across the globe, the reverence for earth manifests in countless forms, from rituals steeped in tradition to modern movements advocating for environmental justice. Despite the diverse cultures, geographies, and histories, the common thread that unites these practices is the recognition that the earth is not merely a backdrop to human existence, but a living, breathing entity deserving of respect. This global perspective on reverence for earth is a testament to the universal understanding that the land, water, and sky are intertwined with humanity's survival, prosperity, and spiritual well-being. In many ancient civilizations, earth gods were seen not as distant figures but as intimate, familial forces. In Greek mythology, Gaia, the personification of earth, was the very foundation of all life. Her relationship with the other gods and her creation of life was not distant or abstract, it was deeply personal and intertwined with every cycle of life and death. Similarly, in Sumerian culture, Ninhursag, the earth goddess, was revered as the mother of all living beings, with her gifts of fertility directly tied to agricultural prosperity. These gods were central to daily life, their power and influence felt in every harvest and every seasonal change. In indigenous cultures, the earth is not seen as separate from humanity but as an extension of the human family. For example, the Native American view of Grandmother Earth underscores a deep sense of familial connection, where the land is both a source of nourishment and a respected elder. The Lakota people's prayer to the earth, Midikuyoyasin, all my relations, emphasizes the interconnectedness of all beings, human, animal, plant, and mineral. This worldview calls for stewardship rather than domination, a principle rooted in respect, reciprocity, and gratitude. In the Andean region, the reverence for Pachamama, the Earth Mother, remains a cornerstone of spiritual and daily life. Pachamama is not a distant deity, she is the very soil beneath the feet of the people. Her presence is celebrated through ceremonies that offer thanks and ask for her blessings on the land's fertility. Modern-day festivals like Pachamama Remi still honor this sacred connection, with communities performing rituals of reciprocity, where offerings are made to the earth in gratitude for the year's harvest and to ensure future prosperity. In Africa, the earth is often seen as the ultimate provider, sustaining the people, animals, and plants that inhabit it. The Yoruba people of West Africa honor the earth through their worship of Asasia, a deity that governs both fertility and agricultural abundance. This reverence is expressed in daily life, through rituals that acknowledge the earth's importance in sustaining life. In the context of agriculture, the earth's well-being is linked directly to the prosperity of crops, which are considered gifts from the earth goddess herself. This connection between spirituality and nature remains a core part of African cultural practices, where respect for the land and its cycles is both sacred and practical. Bhumi Devi. The earth is considered a living goddess, and it is a common practice to honor her with prayers and rituals before starting new ventures, such as plowing a field or laying the foundation for a home. The respect for the earth as a sacred entity is also reflected in the traditional practices of organic farming and crop rotation, which are rooted in the understanding that the earth must be cared for in order to sustain future generations. The principles of ahimsa, nonviolence, and sustainability, central to Hindu philosophy, are deeply linked to the treatment of the earth, ensuring that human actions do not harm but rather nurture the land. In the Pacific Islands, the relationship between humanity and the earth is often described through the idea of Kaitiakatanga, the guardianship of nature. In Maori culture, the earth goddess Papachūānuku is the mother of all living things, and her children, the people, are charged with protecting and caring for her. The reverence for Papachūānuku is reflected in the traditional customs of sustainable fishing, farming, and resource management. These practices, rooted in the understanding that the earth provides for all but must also be protected, are central to Maori cultural identity and environmental ethics. While these traditions come from diverse parts of the world, the respect for the earth and its cycles is universal. The stories of earth gods and goddesses, whether they are named Pachamama, Gaia, Bumi Devi, or Papachūānuku, reflect a shared human understanding that the earth is sacred, that it sustains life, and that it must be honored. In each of these cultures, the connection between earth and humanity is not seen as a one-way relationship but as a reciprocal exchange. The earth provides for human needs, food, shelter, and sustenance, while humans, in turn, must protect and nurture the earth to ensure that this cycle of giving and receiving continues. In today's world, this global perspective on reverence for earth is more important than ever. As climate change accelerates and ecosystems face unprecedented disruption, the lessons of these ancient and modern practices offer a roadmap for how to live in harmony with the planet. The environmental movements that are rising globally draw inspiration from these traditions, advocating for sustainable living, resource conservation, and the protection of biodiversity. Concepts like environmental justice, sustainability, and respect for indigenous knowledge systems are increasingly being integrated into global discussions about the future of the Earth. From indigenous wisdom to modern-day eco-consciousness, the global reverence for Earth is a living testament to humanity's enduring connection with the planet. The stories of Earth gods and goddesses serve as a reminder that we are not separate from nature, but part of a larger, interconnected whole. The survival of the earth and all its inhabitants depends on the respect we show to the land, the air, the water, and the cycles of life that sustain us all. Across the globe, the reverence for earth manifests in countless forms, from rituals steeped in tradition to modern movements advocating for environmental justice. Despite the diverse cultures, geographies, and histories, the common thread that unites these practices is the recognition that the earth is not merely a backdrop to human existence, but a living, breathing entity deserving of respect. This global perspective on reverence for earth is a testament to the universal understanding that the land, water, and sky are intertwined with humanity's survival, prosperity, and spiritual well-being. In many ancient civilizations, earth gods were seen not as distant figures but as intimate, familial forces. In Greek mythology, Gaia, the personification of earth, was the very foundation of all life. Her relationship with the other gods and her creation of life was not distant or abstract, it was deeply personal and intertwined with every cycle of life and death. Similarly, in Sumerian culture, Ninhursag, the earth goddess, was revered as the mother of all living beings, with her gifts of fertility directly tied to agricultural prosperity. These gods were central to daily life, their power and influence felt in every harvest and every seasonal change. In indigenous cultures, the earth is not seen as separate from humanity but as an extension of the human family. For example, the Native American view of Grandmother Earth underscores a deep sense of familial connection, where the land is both a source of nourishment and a respected elder. The Lakota people's prayer to the earth, Midikuyoyasin, all my relations, emphasizes the interconnectedness of all beings, human, animal, plant, and mineral. This worldview calls for stewardship rather than domination, a principle rooted in respect, reciprocity, and gratitude. In the Andean region, the reverence for Pachamama, the Earth Mother, remains a cornerstone of spiritual and daily life. Pachamama is not a distant deity, she is the very soil beneath the feet of the people. Her presence is celebrated through ceremonies that offer thanks and ask for her blessings on the land's fertility. Modern-day festivals like Pachamama still honor this sacred connection, with communities performing rituals of reciprocity, where offerings are made to the earth in gratitude for the year's harvest and to ensure future prosperity. In Africa, the earth is often seen as the ultimate provider, sustaining the people, animals, and plants that inhabit it. The Yoruba people of West Africa honor the earth through their worship of Asasia, a deity that governs both fertility and agricultural abundance. This reverence is expressed in daily life, through rituals that acknowledge the earth's importance in sustaining life. In the context of agriculture, the earth's well-being is linked directly to the prosperity of crops, which are considered gifts from the earth goddess herself. This connection between spirituality and nature remains a core part of African cultural practices, where respect for the land and its cycles is both sacred and practical. In India, the reverence for earth is woven into the fabric of Hinduism through the worship of Bhumi Devi. The earth is considered a living goddess, and it is a common practice to honor her with prayers and rituals before starting new ventures, such as plowing a field or laying the foundation for a home. The respect for the earth as a sacred entity is also reflected in the traditional practices of organic farming and crop rotation, which are rooted in the understanding that the earth must be cared for in order to sustain future generations. The principles of ahimsa, nonviolence, and sustainability, central to Hindu philosophy, are deeply linked to the treatment of the earth, ensuring that human actions do not harm but rather nurture the land. In the Pacific Islands, the relationship between humanity and the earth is often described through the idea of Kaitiakatanga, the guardianship of nature. In Maori culture, the earth goddess Papatuanuku is the mother of all living things, and her children, the people, are charged with protecting and caring for her. The reverence for Papatuanuku is reflected in the traditional customs of sustainable fishing, farming, and resource management. These practices, rooted in the understanding that the earth provides for all but must also be protected, are central to Maori cultural identity and environmental ethics. In India, the reverence for earth is woven into the fabric of Hinduism through the worship of. While these traditions come from diverse parts of the world, the respect for the earth and its cycles is universal. The stories of earth gods and goddesses, whether they are named Pachamama, Gaia, Bhumi Devi, or Papatuanuku, reflect a shared human understanding that the earth is sacred, that it sustains life, and that it must be honored. In each of these cultures, the connection between earth and humanity is not seen as a one-way relationship but as a reciprocal exchange. The earth provides for human needs, food, shelter, and sustenance, while humans, in turn, must protect and nurture the earth to ensure that this cycle of giving and receiving continues. In today's world, this global perspective on reverence for earth is more important than ever. As climate change accelerates and ecosystems face unprecedented disruption, the lessons of these ancient and modern practices offer a roadmap for how to live in harmony with the planet. The environmental movements that are rising globally draw inspiration from these traditions, advocating for sustainable living, resource conservation, and the protection of biodiversity. Concepts like environmental justice, sustainability, and respect for indigenous knowledge systems are increasingly being integrated into global discussions about the future of the Earth. From indigenous wisdom to modern-day eco-consciousness, the global reverence for Earth is a living testament to humanity's enduring connection with the planet. The stories of Earth gods and goddesses serve as a reminder that we are not separate from nature, but part of a larger, interconnected whole. The survival of the earth and all its inhabitants depends on the respect we show to the land, the air, the water, and the cycles of life that sustain us all.